What is going on, everybody? Can everybody hear me all right? How are we doing this evening? Got a weird, wild, and a dark one, honestly, as we go through this. So I think the funniest part about this game is going to be watching all 22 in the snow. I mean, it's hilarious. It has nothing to do with Lumen Field's angle. It's just that the Bears are wearing white on a day where, I mean, it is snowing at this point. Like you can see it clearly on these end zone angles. It's dark. It's funny to just make out, I think, as you go through this game, because you watch this film and you're like, oh wow, this obviously looks really different from the normal film we watch. And it's the silliest takeaway. I mean, like, look at this. Look at this. I wouldn't call it a blizzard, obviously, but like, I'll give you another look at it. I mean, it is snowing, and it tunes down as the game goes on, for sure. But at the very start of this, I mean, it was cold. Maybe it must have been a Kusai. And yeah, two-stop, I mean, for sure. Now, to be fair, I want to make sure that as we go through this game, that we don't necessarily prop up Cole Kmet. So I want this to be as fair and balanced as possible, right? We've been frustrated with Cole Kmet over the last couple of weeks. And then this week, I thought he did a lot of really good things, right? And so I don't want to necessarily just take the new because it's better and throw out how we felt a couple weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact. I mean, I think it was as recent as last week or that Arizona game. We need to see more of this Cole Kmet, the angry running Cole Kmet. You know what? Let me go ahead and find you let's find an example, because there's plenty. Akusai, Bear and Balance is a different day. Today is just fair and balanced, but that is exactly where it came from. Guess whose idea the name was? I think it was mine. I think it was. I can't remember. But so, anyways, let me see here. We got some funny ones. Akusai, you've gotten me really, really into watching for when JP Holtz comes into the game, because it really is a run almost all the time, and it's gotten funny, because it's not as if he's a problem player. It's not like he's a bad blocker, but he only comes in when the Bears are going to run the ball, and it completely gives it away. I think other teams are starting to figure it out. Another thing that you'll notice as we go through film, depending on how much we go through, but it would be my hope that we get through enough that you're going to see something I didn't really anticipate, is that, and they're not in, of course they are, on this play, but this is 67. You're looking for 99 and 97. So that's Al Woods. And then that's Puna Ford. Ford. And they are Seattle's best players on defense, period. Like, they looked great this game, and that means you're going to be seeing a lot of Whitehair, Daniels, and Mustafa struggling. Like, those are their interior defensive tackles that normally play there and there. And thank you, Scott, for reminding me. So, look, I'm from Texas, and when it comes to covering the Bears, I mean, there is, there was a voice, obviously, that rose, I wouldn't say, I don't know, you say above the rest and you get into weird eulogizing stuff, right? But Jeff Dickerson passed away recently, and that is an unbelievable loss for the Chicago community. And if you have the extra money, don't give it to me. Give it to Parker Dickerson, because he's got so much going on in his life, obviously with the loss of both of his parents. I believe both to cancer, though I'm not as updated on the story as plenty, which is the primary reason you haven't seen me talk or tweet about it. It's just not my place to really inject. But I know he's got a GoFundMe. He's getting a lot of support, and that's great, but I'm sure every single aspect of support will matter. And so if you've got anything, please give it to him. He, I'm sure, needs help. And also R.I.P. John Madden. So 2 huge figures in the football community lost over this last week. Really, really awful week as far as just tragic death. But of course, it came on a week where we actually get to talk about a win for once. I mean, we go from... Have you guys thought about how coming off of that Vegas game, the Bears were 3-2 and have since fallen to 5-10? And just looking at that translation is so sad, right? I mean, we're talking about It was 4 before this game, for crying out loud. We had that Thanksgiving win over the Lions, and that is it. And so to see just how rare it is to be able to talk about a win is, I think it's a little stark. But let's go ahead. Somebody mentioned Cole Kmet. I mean, this is the energy that you do like to see out of your young receiving tight end, right? So it's obviously not this play. Let me see here. I'm a little behind. That's what's going on. But so it's just a basic check down. I mean, it's nothing complicated, if anything. So I'll draw up that it's not going to be perfect, right? But the Bears are going to run some kind of vertical pattern. I can't quite remember what it is off the top of my head. But so with that, you're going to see the Bears just crisscross Montgomery and Cole Kmet right here. And I love the fact that they did this, because when you run these vertical concepts, you're going to be able to create room for your checkdowns. That, to me, is really pertinent. I mean, it's not just with Foles that that's helpful for, because you're going to see number 9 actually played pretty well. I don't want to prop him up as some kind of patron saint or savior. I think we all know how we feel about Nick Foles in all sorts of different capacities, right? I mean, this was just the better version of him. This was the closer to the Atlanta version of Nick Foles, closer to the early 2020 as opposed to late 2020, where he and the Bears offense just seemed to have completely come apart. So this is the kind of player that made you wonder. Look, I don't want to say why they signed Andy Dalton. I get why they did it, but it definitely felt to me like this was that reminder of, oh, this is the guy who they traded for, which, for what it's worth, it's not as if that still makes it like a good trade, but you can definitely tell that the Bears, whatever it was, they didn't want to bite into the sunk cost fallacy. I wonder what happened between Foles and the locker room to have created that fiery press conference that we saw at the start of the season. It seems like a fractured relationship to me, but if it was, honestly, that got the offensive staff in decent gear, because if you take a look at this, I mean, again, it's not anything particularly fancy, just a basic, it's not a slot fade, but like a deep go with a bit of a bend in it, like another deep one there, and you've got a crisscrossing action off the checkdowns that's going to get Cole Kmet open in space. Foles even gets there late after some creative pocket management, and then he just does this. Puts the ball in his hand, ducks down, turns on the jets. That's quick. Look, it doesn't have to be about side-to-side bend for Cole Kmet. His ability to just jet laterally one way or another is never going to be elite. But his straight-line speed, I mean, the kid's athletic. He's 22. And so to see this, which is just, let me optimize my yardage based on who I am, this was a good Cole Kmet, and one that, look, nobody's going to call him a star, right? But as a helpful football player, and he goes out and picks up a third down, because this is a third down conversion, no less, with enough space. Obviously, Newsome gets really excited about it. Dazz was fun to watch, honestly. It's not like Dazz looked like a great football player. He's got maybe potential. I don't know. I didn't see a ton or enough to necessarily grade the guy, but I will say, you take a look at what 9 does in the pocket, you got to wonder what he's teaching Foles, what he's teaching Fields, because Fields would have a lot to learn from him. I mean, this is a guy, so he slides out here. Mustafa completely loses his block to the interior defender that looks like Carlos Dunlap, and then Foles hops out, takes a hit in the face, jumps out of a grabbed tackle right there, and fades right as he has to make a kind of a jump pass, but closer to a sling. He must have gotten hit at least 15, 16, 17 times throughout this game. Foles got beat up. Not all of them were not his fault. He definitely, let's say, leaned into some of those hits. Not to try to draw fouls per se, but that Foles was trying to extend plays. And stuff like that in the pocket's really neat to see. I think if it's Fields, he probably just gets a first down. So, something exactly like this probably isn't likely. But at the very least, number 9 was fighting for his life at this point. And hey, he did a solid job. Like Akusai said, they did a really good, like, Foles helped the Bears convert on a ton of third downs. I don't have the perspective, or I don't have the conversion percentage on hand, but I can tell you it was dramatically better than it had been, as it felt like, even, I mean, for crying out loud, let's take the perfect example, right? We got to jump into what the people want, and the people want to see the Bears score a touchdown. So Scott, I'll get to that question here in just a little bit. So Foles puts a solid ball on 2nd and 14, as we know, to Cole Kmet, and Bobby Wagner's coverage is just better. Like, it's a basic tight end ISO. They tried a tight end ISO with Kmet basically all game. And that's not to say that Kmet never got it open because he's bad, but the Seattle Seahawks took it away pretty well. 54 is going to do a really good job in coverage on this, where because he's as high as he is, Kmet basically can't cut inside at all, so the throw follows Kmet where he's going. The throw then, which Kmet took the route so deep that it doesn't come down in time, but hey, credit to 85. He gets up, he makes the catch, and from the, physical rep percentage, it's awfully neat to see Kmet come up with a contested catch over the top of a linebacker, even if it's out of bounds. But I mean, I only say that because we're talking development at this stage. But take a look at this, right? Take a look at this. It's a curl. Why wouldn't it be a curl? But the post up by Jimmy Graham, and when Nick Foles throws this ball. So I'll watch Foles. He lets go of it right here. Remember, Jimmy's about to turn in the end, or in the red zone. Oh yeah, Sean, Bobby Wagner is very good. Nothing wrong with that. But so, he then sees it with the ball well in flight. That's the instant that Jimmy turns around and just posts up the number 29, the DB, takes the ball down on 3rd and 14 for crying out loud. And you bet, Akusai, I think I can make that happen. But so, for crying out loud, it felt like the Bears could not be stopped on 3rd down. Maybe it was just the Bears' blind squirrel finds a nut game, but I can't help but feel like Nick Foles' operation also helped them out. Again, nobody's to say. I don't want to make this about Fields versus Foles. If anything, I want to make this about Foles versus maybe Foles' public perception, and a little bit about the offensive staff and the way they kind of used him. And yeah, Jamie, immediately the snowballs just start coming out. But This was a really weird game with a wild ending. Foles wasn't perfect, as we'll see in the very next play. And yeah, Kusai, there's plenty to say about old 74 Jermaine Afadia. But hey, on this play, he and his cohort Larry Borum, who played most of the game, were solid. And Graham comes away with a score. But so from there, they ran this play. They run this actually fairly, I don't want to say it's often, but they've run it a couple times where basically Bird is going to set a natural pick for Mooney right here. He's going to pop into the back of the end zone. Mooney then is just going to run a flat route and try to leverage the pick. He's number 1. He's number 2. If Mooney's not there, you look back into the middle of the field. But so Foles going to take the snap, going to look to his right off of the sprint out. Mooney's not there. Now, Wagner in the middle makes Foles pause. I'm not sure why. I think Foles throws this ball really late, to be honest. Maybe Foles wants a laser and doesn't get it, but he's open, and he didn't have to make the catch that he made, I think, if the ball comes out there and Bird can fade back a little bit for it, catch it maybe there. But I'm the one with the clicker, and Foles is the one doing it in real time. So he sees it, realizes this is the throw he's got to make, and so buzzes it in there. And it's really not that fabulous a throw. It's late. It's a little off target, but Bird makes the catch of his life. I mean, after all the comments that we've had about Damiere Byrd, whether it's blocking, receiving the ball, everything in between, this throw, which is a lot more off target than I think people realize, because he skies straight up for it right here and then has to catch the ball obviously over on his left. But he manages to somehow get a full foot and knee down while keeping the ball in the air, general control of it, and suddenly the Bears are up 25-24. I don't want to skip to the end. We don't need to necessarily read the back of the book, but it was wild seeing the plays that the Bears came up with, and by came up with, I mean the ones where it felt as if the dice just sort of rolled in their favor. There are pieces of it. I know exactly what you mean, Akusai. It's nuts, but seeing how many times the dice seemed to come up sixes for the Bears in this game was really nutty. And I can't help but feel like the overall tone of the game that I guess I want to translate as we dive into a little bit of what I have for you and some questions that we can then probably go around answering from there. But I can't help but feel as if Seattle self-destructed just as much or more as the Bears won the game. I don't want to take anything away from the Bears' resiliency. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not as if I'm trying to dog on the Bears, but man, you watch some of the stuff, like the plays that the Seahawks didn't make, the stuff that they left on the field, I feel like the Seahawks were clearly the better team throughout the first half. They were pretty much squarely the better team in the second half, but they made some stupid decisions and they made some poor mistakes that I feel like really cost them. Obviously put the Bears in position to potentially win, and the Bears took their chance. Like, it's wild. Exactly, Akusai. That we didn't beat ourselves, we let Seattle beat themselves. And Scott, I'm with you. I didn't actually feel like both teams were trying to give the game away. Like, we've seen worse, though that Foles super strip sack that did not become a strip sack, that was an incomplete pass, that was a really nice break. But yeah, two-stop. I feel like Seattle ended up like a well-marketed bad team, and so their fans were livid, obviously, that they lost to the Nick Foles-led Chicago Bears. And I get it. I would be too, but the game, like the Seattle that I watched, let me give you my favorite example, honestly. Like, let's just go through it, right? So remember that, or we're going to fast forward, or I guess technically this would be rewinding to a point where the score is, I'll check my notes to get the exact number. Want to make sure we've got this right. But the score at this stage is 24-17 Seattle. So Let's go through this drive. The Bears had just, yeah, right, exactly. But so the score at this stage is CHI and then Seattle. It's 17-24. The reason that matters is because obviously that means that if Seattle goes down the field, gets 3 or, any points at all, they're going to be up 2 scores, and that's key, right? And so at that, like, I'll watch through this, or like we'll watch through this drive and you'll see what I'm talking about, where Seattle pretty much has the opportunity to put the game away, and they're able to get yards almost, it feels like wherever they want it. That's a nice little tackle from Thomas Graham, by the way. You're going to see him jet down, make a play right here. I actually thought he played pretty well. Like, we don't need to suggest that Graham played incredibly, because obviously he got smoked by Metcalf, and we'll walk through that one because I have got some comments about that play. But I thought Graham in general held up. The trouble was, I think somebody mentioned it earlier, was it Hitesh in the comment section? Artie Burns looked awesome. Artie Burns looked like a revelation, like a new man. 22 was the real weak link from the corner position in terms of that 3-man rotation. That's a story I feel like has been covered at length on this channel. But Seattle did a really good job of, you're going to see on this end around right here, that they catch the Bears defense with really nobody in position to make a play on this ball. It's kind of the antithesis of what the Bears did on offense, or what they have done all season, where on their end arounds you consistently feel like there's a man right there in front of them, for instance. It always feels like whether it's blocking or whatever happens along with the Bears, they don't get much, if any, run, like on either side. Yeah, Ademola Burns looked unbelievable. But so, like, we'll talk about it, 3Z. You get the idea. But yeah, Artie Burns was great. It's not an accident. Burns looked awesome on all facets. Seattle's going to get, it looks like, a nice little block from 81. I think that's Gerald Everett, and he made some really nice plays. Roquan bites the fake a little bit. It's a solid run. We're overanalyzing a 6-yard gain on the ground, and I know that. But so we'll move on from there, because the real point of what I want to make on this drive is that Seattle's going to take a easy position where they can, like, drive this win home, and they're going to throw it away. You obviously know that because you watched the game, but they marched down the field pretty easily. This wasn't a game where the Bears found themselves making play after play after play. And even though they suffered little drops like this, like you can kind of, I don't want to say that you're starting to see like the seams come apart, for crying out loud, but you would certainly hope that Rashad Penny and Russell Wilson can make this, or like can come together on this. It may have actually been tipped, as a matter of fact. Let's take a look here. Yeah, it looks like it was tipped by Bruce Irvin. So there you go, right? But so the Seattle had yards relatively easily, in my opinion. Like, I think it's, oh gosh, yeah, this was a nasty run. But so it felt as if the Bears defense was better at the start of the game than they were in that middle section, for sure. I mean, I don't want to say that they didn't have a plan, but they were not getting particularly great play from the guys that they needed to step up, given that you're playing without Khalil Mack, without Akeem Hicks, without a lot of what makes your run defense good. Like in this case, you might hope that Eddie Jackson could get downhill and make a play. He didn't. Thomas Graham misses a tackle there. Like, the Bears had a lot of runs with Rashad Penny, like you're saying, two-stop, where they missed a lot of tackles. It was across the secondary. It was the defensive line. It was the linebackers. It felt like it was everybody. But then all of a sudden, the Seahawks are going to call an option football play right here, basic little zone read, where he's going to see Robert Quinn pull, and so Russ is going to take the ball. He's going to roll right on down. But so remember that Seattle's at like the 11 here. I think that's really key, because going back and watching this, I was blown away at how close Seattle was. It felt more realistic that they would miss this field goal. Spoiler alert. At the time. But Seattle takes first down. They get 3 yards. Second down, run up the middle. Ogletree makes a nice play. He was extremely hit and miss. Cold snap or kneecap, maybe I don't know. It's hard for me to blame weather or even account for weather on something like this, given what happened, because then Quinn comes up with his 17th sack of the season, gets half of a sack away from the record, and oh boy, maybe it was honestly kneecap for the missed tackles. So Quinn's gonna just work his way around the edge as the Bears coverage set ends up blanketing a short Seattle concept relatively well. Seattle's basically just called a couple of out routes with an out and up. Graham's got this one on the edge. And as Russ looks around, he doesn't see anything until it's just a little too late. Quinn's able to track him down. And like you're saying, Akusai, I mean, what I think is ironic about this play, it's a bad one from Russ. You can't take a 12-yard sack when you're trying to put the game away at the 11-yard line. But ironically enough, I mean, this is pretty much exactly what we saw from Fields just last week in terms of taking a sack that was bad and turning it into even worse. So a 7-yard loss, a 6-yard loss, you got to think it helps the kicker out. I mean, you're talking about extra point range. And don't get me wrong, they should make a 39-yarder. Nice hustle sack from Quinn, good coverage, anything I feel like on the 3.5 second mark. I wish I had some kind of like a timer on on this overlay where we could see just how long certain things took. But at this point, I mean, you got to think, when you're kicking from the 21, that you're going to be all right. And obviously, Seattle misses this. I feel like it wasn't this that was the beginning of the end. It was almost confirmation things were getting away from them. Because you got to remember that just a little bit earlier, in fact, 2 drives earlier, Seattle was driving at this stage. So we're going back to just after the second half had gotten started. And Seattle's going to get away with what could have been an interception. Bears played a lot of cover 3 this game. I can't tell. I think it's because they were trying to stop Seattle's rushing attack, knowing that they had something. And the Bears bracket, I think that's Tyler Lockett, pretty well with Eddie Jackson underneath and Deion Bush over the top. I'm legitimately surprised that Bush misses this. Like, this was a play that, looking back, seemed like you would hope that your center field safety has, especially given that from that moment, right? You're thinking the safety wins the battle. So an interception that I'm sure Bush wants back. I wouldn't be surprised if Lockett got a hand in it, but even so, it was an opportunity for the Bears, and they missed it. So you're already thinking, because they just come off a touchdown drive, that, oh, maybe this was their chance, they missed it, and now it's going to get back from, now it's going to go from bad to worse. Actually, looks like we can freeze frame it and pretty confidently say he just dropped this. I mean, so power the clicker, yes, but that's about as clear shot at a ball as I think a safety is going to get. He doesn't come away with it. Big bummer there. But I think so now that was first down. Here comes second down. They're just going to hand it off. And hey, sometimes you run the ball and you get decent yardage, but it's not a first down, right? And so it's still a successful run. I mean, hilariously enough, Seattle does the same thing the Bears do, and they run just all the time. On 2nd and 10, Bruce Irvin misses a tackle, so now it's 3rd and 3, and remember, they're at about the 43-yard line. They've got the gain to go at the 39, and goodness gracious, if this didn't, yeah, I know, right, Akusai? If this doesn't describe what I think this game looked like from a defensive perspective, I don't know what does. Where, if you take a look at this, look, just watch Duke Shelley versus DK Metcalf right here. So Metcalf completely shatters Shelley's ankles, gets absolutely wide open at the sticks, but the throw's too high. They don't connect. They don't come down with this. I mean, the Bears made their plays. Like, you got a great game out of Artie Burns. You got that key sack out of Robert Quinn for sure. But between the guys that they had, whether it was Goldman, I thought Nichols had a really underwhelming game, which has just been the cherry on top of an underwhelming season so far. I thought Ogletree was hit and miss. Roquan was fine, not his best work. And we obviously had some trouble in the secondary here and there. Desai came to the game with a decent game plan, but the Bears couldn't stop the run. And then, to make matters worse, on what could be a 4th and 4-ish at midfield, Seattle decides to punt. And I get it. Maybe you're sitting here thinking, okay, come on, it's the Bears. Like, at this stage, memory serves, it was 10-17. So maybe you're just not worried about their offense. And I would understand. But I think it was 14-17. But I feel like you got to go for this. I mean, if I was Seattle, I'd be livid that they didn't go for this. And so, like you're saying, Harrison, I mean, when you watch this, I thought Russ played a good game, certainly a good first half. Maybe the second half, there are some slightly more questionable pieces to it. But the Bears did almost give away basically their entire franchise war chest for number 3. And that would have been, I don't think it would have been good. And even if you don't think Fields is very good, like I saw somebody in the comments earlier say that's fine. Like, it's still a better outlook with Fields and the team that they have now than it is without 3 first-round picks, without a couple second or third round picks, and probably a couple defensive players. Wouldn't surprise me if that was like Jalen Johnson, Roquan Smith, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, somebody up in there, like that region of defenders would have gone to Seattle. And I tend to think Seattle would have been a better team for it. Like, they would have certainly had the ammunition to go up and get a decent quarterback and at least flip things over going forward. But now they've got Russ, and it wasn't enough to beat the Bears, which isn't great. But so, what was funny is, like you guys are saying, the footing wasn't great by any means. I wouldn't surprise me, now that you mention it, knee snap, if the footing had a lot to do with the missed tackles, because you saw it all over. It wasn't just the Bears that missed tackles, as I'm sure you guys know. It feels like just another day at the office for Montgomery, but a lot of his a lot of Montgomery's runs were flat out forceful. I mean, take a look at this one. This was this was absolutely one of my favorites right here, where just watch number 32 and what he does to this poor defensive back. So he's going to take the snap off of just a basic shotgun handoff, outside zone run. Might be inside zone technically, but so he then just destroys his matchup. So all 3 of these guys are going to hit the outside. Might be a draw. now that I look at it. Hard to tell because these three jump out, but Daniels fades back, as does Ifedi right there. Not 100% sure. But so Mooney's going to pick his way through and then just lower the shoulder on poor number 23, who gets just tossed for a first down. This is awesome. Not to mention you've got this snowy aesthetic right here. He takes it, reads, barely is able to make the cut. You can see he's working as hard as he can to make any cut he can make and then just destroy the guy in front of him. And yeah, Kusa, I mean, if memory serves, Montgomery was a cool 21 carries for 42 yards. So it's not like he was efficient, because when you're running at the Seattle strength, you're going to get wrecked. But he did have his splash runs, that's for sure. And they're just so fun to watch. So one thing that you're probably seeing here is it looks to me like a quick RPO where Foles is going to see that the inside linebacker bends this way towards the run play. So it's an easy pull decision for a 2-on-2 blocking scenario on the outside. The problem? The Bears can't make a block. This is Dazz Newsome, who gets driven right backwards. Damiere Byrd doesn't make a particularly great block on the outside either, but a 2-on-2 with a 1-on-1 with the safety ends up being a gain of almost nothing, mostly due to just the difference in blocking talent. Like, if these two theoretically just can make a block, you've got a true 1-on-1 with Darnell Mooney, one of your better receivers, and that and the safety. You obviously don't get that. Instead, it's Newsome's guy who makes a play, and it's a pretty good one from 28. I mean, hey, we can credit a defender when the defender earns it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the more I watch the Bears, it's a silly comment, but I would love to see their wide receivers get consistent at blocking. Yeah, Scott, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that Dazz tried his best. I would actually consider that a theme. Like, Dazz Newsome gave effort, for better or for worse, right? But it's, I don't know. There's something about being a willing blocker that I think you can work with from a coaching perspective. This is one of the, many tight end slants that they kept trying to work the tight end slant. I'm not 100% sure why with Bobby Wagner in coverage, but they really, really tried. Like, you'll see a tight end slant right here with, I think it's Bird coming out on a curl that Foles works the pocket, tries to keep things alive, obviously can't. That's Mustipher getting beat by Al Woods right there, but Kmet ends up double covered, which, hey, it happens. Nothing's really there. Foles junks the ball, and by that I mean he does that weird thing where he kind of just YOLOs it into a loose window, and it gets deflected away, and he goes, okay, whatever. And somebody goes, oh, almost could have been picked, even though it wouldn't have been. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird game plan, Akusai, in that it's not like the Bears had all bad ideas. I mean, you could tell, especially on third down. They did decent things. Foles keeps this one alive. This was really good by Dazz. So, for those who don't know, if you don't know anything about Dazz Newsome, I'll just go and pull this up right here. Dazz Newsome. Whoa, spelled that wrong. Raz. So, if you don't know anything about Dazz Newsome, just know that he tested really poorly. So, this is a relative athletic score, and Dazz ended up, in terms of his metrics, not particularly tall, not particularly heavy, didn't do great on the bench. Like, his 40-yard dash was below average, or what is it? These are the numbers that you care about. Like, he had a 4.6 40 with a 2.66 split, a 1.65. Look, I get it. It's testing numbers. Who cares, right? But that really stuck out to me. I mean, especially the agility grade, right? Where you ended up with below 3. So these are like percentiles, basically, right? Like, that's the 28th percentile and the 11th percentile for how these, or like for how the athletic score numbers work. And the player that we're seeing here definitely looks quicker than that. I'm not about to sit here and say he's wildly fast, because we didn't test that. But That's a nice move in open space to generate a first down, especially on a really, really low ball. And like you're saying, James, it's a solid job from fighting back from that collarbone injury, which, to be truthfully, I'm fully honest, I completely forgot he dealt with. So, yeah, that totally works out. But good job on his part. Foles also takes a big shot from Mustafa's guy, who works all the way around the pocket. So, that's Sam right here, who engages 91, pushes him out, and then 91 works all the way around, hits Foles as he throws, and Dazz is able to make a nice adjustment in the snow. So, nice. And yeah, Kusai, he definitely seems that way. So then the Bears, they convert their first down, which again, unusual. They try a screen. Screen gets buried. Part of me wonders whether Montgomery turned around a little early. This is one of those screen tidbits that, look, I wish that I was a football coach so I could give you guys better information than just what I'm seeing, what I read, and so on and so forth. But I want you to take a look at this linebacker, because to me, this is going to tell the story, right? You're going to see Kmet run a route, and that route is obviously supposed to draw the attention of the linebacker, right? And so Montgomery's already starting to turn around, and the linebacker has his eye on him. So he's trying to figure out, is this a screen? Is it not, right? And yeah, Jam, I don't know that it was a stunt, actually. I think, so going back to that one, it looked to me like Mustafa hit him hard enough that he just converted his action into a stunt, because the stunts generally look more intentional, per se, while, hey, sometimes you just take what you're given, and that works out. But so anyways, part of me wonders whether there is something about screen discipline in a receiver not turning around fast or slow, because once Montgomery turns around like this, the linebacker bites down and completely ignores Kmet, and all of a sudden you've got a blocker that is totally useless, right? So Kmet gets out there, and sure, he's going to go block the DB, but nobody, and I mean nobody, out of the 4 linemen out in front of Montgomery is blocking the end man on line of scrimmage, which I think he was supposed to carry with Kmet. Instead, he ends up denying the screen for a gain of about a half yard. But it's the little things with this Bears team that get really frustrating to watch over time, because that's probably a decent screen if they're able to get 56 to commit. They don't. It happens. But I mean, that's pretty normal stuff at this stage when it comes to the way these Bears operate. So then on second down, because it didn't work on first down, they've got to run it again on second. Surprise, right? We're basically contractually obligated to run on third and long, or on second and long. So you're going to see Borum get ducked under by, I think it's going to be, let's see, it's Wagner. Wagner ducks right underneath Borum as Borum's getting engaged by 56 and makes a play to turn it into about a 3rd and 6. But here comes another play that I think is so fun, because I don't know whether it's a Foles thing, because we really haven't seen this much from Fields or Dalton, or something to do with the playbook. Maybe it's something that they installed really recently, but they do a good job here of getting Goodwin. You'll see him on a crosser, where you're going to see Kmet set a pick for that Goodwin crosser. I drew that badly, so let's go crosser, and then a post turns into a pick route. But even cooler is the read that you're going to see both Goodwin and Foles make on this crosser, because it's not just a Madden crosser, if you get my drift. Instead, Goodwin's actually going to look, and he's going to see that there's a zone defender sitting where he's looking to go, like, with the ball, right? So as he comes across, instead of just hauling this way, you're actually going to see him convert his crosser into a stop right here, where he's going to stop, not curl, but just stop his feet a little bit, so that he and Foles can try to fit the ball right in this pocket between him and the defender, just in case that defender doesn't bite on the out route that's coming. Now, obviously this looks like it's unnecessary the instant that that number 28 follows Mooney, but it's interesting to me always whenever you see these kinds of rules, because as Goodwin stops and turns around, like, this is clearly a crosser that got converted into whatever they're doing, And Foles and Goodwin were both on the same page. So they both made the same read. You're going to see Foles look exactly where we were talking about. And as he looks for Goodwin, instead of throwing exactly where you'd expect him to be, right, you'll see both of them chop their feet just a little bit, put that ball on the outside end. It's a really nice route by Goodwin. It ends up as a first down. That kind of stuff is always so cool to me whenever we're watching offensive film, because I don't know, the rules, the way that people convert things, the stuff that you don't see and doesn't really get talked about is, I think, the most special and fun part of football. But that's me being a big nerd. Now, on the other side of it, we've got the blocking issues that we were just talking about, where you're going to see Kmet and Goodwin try to get out and block a 2-on-2. And if Goodwin is supposed to drive this way, right? Like if he's supposed to be this side of a lane and Kmet's supposed to be this side of a lane, by the time that they actually get to their blocking points, that lane is invisible with, let me see if I could draw it ideally. Their shoulders basically intersect. And so there's no running room for Mooney on the end around, which is definitely not something Seattle struggled with on this icy day. This Bears offense is still not a healthy one. I mean, somebody said it right before the show started, right? I'm not even giving you new information. I wish I was. That the Bears offense still struggled to do little things to generate yards, especially on first and second down. But they were able to leverage defensive pass. And of course, we got another second and long run right here. Doesn't go well. Number 99. Is this the play I was thinking of? Oh yeah. Okay, so this one's nasty, guys. So JP Holtz is right here, which signals to Seattle, maybe, that it's a run, right? But even worse, so JP is going to come across and try a wham block on the backside. And 99 is going to absolutely annihilate James Daniels using JP Holtz. Like, this is, it's not dirty in like an actual dirty way, but if this was our defender, we would be highlighting it forever, where he's going to stand up Daniels, push him into JP Holtz, pick him off with JP Holtz, and then immediately wrap and tackle Montgomery. I mean, I'll show it again. You can see him realize he can do it too, right? Like 99 looks, sees the tight end coming, pushes him back into the tight end right there, cleans him off, and immediately makes the play. That is about as manhandled as I've seen an offensive lineman. It's a really nice play by the defensive tackle. It's just doesn't help the Bears, right? I'll show it one more time because this is gnarly in my opinion. Snowy day, bang. Montgomery goes down. He's doing his best, but man, the interior offensive line didn't offer anything. On the bright side, somehow the Bears were able to keep third down magic alive. Now, to be fair, I'm not 100% sure what the Bears or what Seattle was doing, playing close press with two off-man corners, a mug front right here, and one deep safety. I feel like this might work better against Fields or a rookie where potentially a dropout could confuse them in some capacity. And I get trying to be like, our guys are better than your guys, but as I'm sure you guys can see, this leaves an absurd amount of space to potentially throw into, and it's 3rd and 10. Like, this defense makes a lot more sense to me if you're talking about like a 3rd and 4 or something like that. Because at least then you're trying to defend against curls, Bears. You're trying to defend against little out routes, sticks, stuff like that would try to pick up that yardage, and the dropout could potentially deny anything over the middle. But because it's 3rd and 10, like, I just don't understand what Seattle's necessarily trying to defend. And Mooney is about to toast his guy on a slot fade that gets him wide open. It's closer to a post. Nah, it's a slot fade. And Foles underthrows it, and he's lucky he gets the flag. I mean, so when I originally watched the game, I thought Foles might be intentionally underthrowing these. And this one, it's not like he gets much of a choice. He gets blitzed. He gets smoked. It's another one of those moments where Foles just gets blasted. But when the ball goes up, I mean, we're all glad that Mooney ends up with that defensive pass interference call, because it obviously turns a ball that's in the right general direction into all the yards. Oh, yeah, Akusai, they sure were. I mean, Foles on deep balls in particular underthrew it plenty until it mattered, apparently. But credit to Mooney. Hey, if you're looking for development out of number 11, that's a really nice route, and that's some really nice space, right? Santi, I use European Game Pass. So fancy, right? But so that's a nice route. That's one that you're hoping, regardless of who's at quarterback for Chicago, that the Bears will be able to convert in the future. Tons of space. It's not a touchdown, but it's a really nice 30-yard gain. And Bob, let's take a look and see if you're exactly right. Oh, I remember this one. I don't think Daniels missed his guy. I think if Fady pinched in on a bad slide, so it looks to me, based on the way that Mustipher moves, like he called this left side of the line to slide to the left. And what you're going to see is that when 54 drops out, Mustipher's going to go take Poona Ford, Daniels moves to go take Carlos Dunlap, and Ifedi doesn't kick out to take 56. So it looks to me like a protection failure, given that Mustipher and Daniels both, I mean, they almost literally have the same stance at this point. This looks like a video game. But Ifedi jumps in on the wrong assignment and ends up leading 56 unblocked. Credit to Foles for just releasing the ball anyways. We can give the third stringer credit for doing small things like that, but they end up generating drawing the flag and moving on. Now, I can't remember if this is where it starts. It's low. They just start running Montgomery, and hey, we'll take it. Santi, unfortunately, isn't free, so I'm going to be your best bet. But so from there, the Bears start running the ball a little bit, and they're able to get some success. Like, that works really, really well for them. And in this moment, at the very least, where they're just going to grind their way into the end zone. And I feel like every Bears fan everywhere probably just loved this part of the drive, where it's not pretty. I mean, we're not talking about tons of, oh no, they don't drive their way into the end zone. I just looked at my notes where I forgot. They almost do. They look like they're going to, right? Like 3rd and 1 right here, handed to Montgomery. He's going to go pick up a first down. Oh no, this is first down. But the point is, he advances. Bears picking up steady yardage, puts him at the 2. Can y'all remember what comes after this? I bet you do. But so after all of this, where the Bears are lining up in 13 personnel with Alex Bars, for crying out loud. Like, it's not as if they're not being, obvious about the run. And you'll continue to see at this stage, by the way, that Daniels is going to end up in the backfield a lot. I think it's 99 on this one, who just torches him again. These kinds of visuals are common. Like, they really are. I don't want to, it's not an anti-James Daniels campaign, but he got smoked by the guy across from him consistently. And then, because it worked in week 10, because it worked in week 9, we got to call the Wildcat with JP Holtz in front. I mean, why? I almost wonder why they wouldn't just sub Foles off for this play and just get an 11th blocker, because at this stage, I don't get what they're wanting to do. They run into a 10-man box. I mean, it's not a results thing, right? I don't understand why it is that after lining up under center, if you're trying to run like David Montgomery in snowy weather on the 2-yard line, why you would go to a shotgun, no option Wildcat with a running back. This one's beyond me, y'all. Not to mention, you're just putting in bad offensive linemen at this point. I think that's Lachavius Simmons, and we know that's Alex Bars, to go with all of your tight ends on the left-hand side. Or no, that's Whitehair. So just one tight end. I think that's Cole Kmet. But yeah, outside of, Nick Foles, who, let's see, he does not release. So you can definitely tell that you could definitely tell Nick Foles is really into the play, because we're moving and he is not. But yeah, I mean, running into 10-man box, it's just hard to succeed. Like, sure, it's one thing to know that. Oh, I also wonder if there's a cadence problem. Oh, I hadn't thought about this. Okay, so another thought that comes to mind, and I'm just thinking out loud here. Like, this is going to be a pretty loose stream, just if you guys didn't figure that out by now. But so, right, Ace? Exactly. I wonder if they also timed up the snap count. Like, I honestly wonder if Seattle realized that they're at the 1 yard line. They need to stop, right? And if they take an offsides penalty, all they do is move up to here and not a lot changes, right? But if, because it's a running back, they go on 1, so they go on that first pad of the foot, they could all jump the snap. Because you take a look at this, they go pat, and immediately the entire Seattle defensive line just empties into the backfield. I don't think it's quite a clear snap jump, but they were definitely ready. Like, the first people, let's take a reaction test. Let's look at the ball, and we will, let's see. So initial reaction doesn't seem to favor anybody in particular, except maybe Woods. Woods has a lot of motion right here. But yeah, Mustipher gets dunked. Woods works through 2 guys, to be clear. Like, Woods is the defensive tackle that we would love to have. Because, like, Mustipher's on his face. Daniels is doesn't do anything. Borum's on his back. It's messy. That's 1 defensive tackle beating 2 blocks flush. And so then it's 3rd down. I mean, they did, Bob. It was easy. And I mean, how could you not, right? Like, you didn't put Holtz over here and 2 extra offensive linemen so that you could run to the right. That might actually do something. But instead, they slide to where all the protection is, and they just eat it alive. It's bad play call. Like, in my opinion, I think it's easy, and you guys have heard me say this, for couch quarterbacks to be like, that's a bad play call. That's a bad read, and so on and so forth. But this really was, to me anyways, just an unplug your controller moment from the offensive staff. I don't know why they sent this play in. I mean, I would rather run 3 QB sneaks from there, knowing full and well what that looked like when the Bears tried it later in the game. I mean, this to me is a play call that just doesn't, you're not going to win. I mean, exactly, Akusai. Like, you could even have JP Holtz potentially be a handoff option for all I care. Like, you could do anything to at least potentially try and get the defense moving this way. And it's better. Instead, it's stagnant. It's the same 4th and 1 call that failed miserably weeks ago against Baltimore. And now it's just on 2nd down, and it fails equally miserably with a bunch of people. Like, look at Whitehair. We talked about Mustipher and Daniels. Look at where Whitehair ends up. Like, he just gets blown back. Oh, no. Okay. That was a bad point. Should have known that one. But, yeah, I'm with you, 3Z. Like, if the ground is slippery, it benefits the offense, or at least it should. But it doesn't here. And what you'll see on this one, the Bears tried to use their tight ends as red zone threats. If there's any piece of the Cole Kmet, like, what is it, his skill set that I do think is a little weak, I don't think he's as strong as the red zone as a lot of people want their they want their tight end to be. Jimmy Graham at least has the post up move, but Foles looks at it, doesn't like it, CB all over it. I'm with you, Bob. And then Kmet runs his post, he's not open. And Foles tries to make something of it, actually sees Damiere Byrd wide open in the back corner of the end zone and tries to put the ball up on a jump pass, but it's tipped, it falls, it's bad. But it wouldn't surprise me, 3Z, if you're right. I mean, I think an upgraded center does a lot for the team, and Sam does his best. I mean, he is a backup center, right? Like, he's just going to get out-muscled. It's not like he's in the wrong place. He really rarely is. I mean, credit to Sam. He's not lost most of the time. But right here, with Cody Whitehair looking for nobody, I don't know why it is that for some reason it always feels like 65 is looking for work with everybody else engaged. But at this moment, if you're like looking to try to build a championship team, you want your center to be able to not just get utterly out-leveraged by Poona Ford. And hey, Poona's a solid player, but whew, that's not good for what's going on. But so, yeah, then Foles tries to make something happen. He's not exactly world's greatest athlete, and that, there you go. But bad. And then the decision to go for it on 4th down. Okay, so this we are officially starting one of my favorite segments of the show. Like, this was one that I came up with that I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. But so, Marcos, I did not like it. I mean, at least I didn't. I get Ifedi trying to chide the rookie for taking a 15-yard penalty, but you get the idea. I think you'll find that I pretty much agree with everybody else that Ifedi's reaction seemed over the top. But anyways, so it's 4th down, and I want to talk through this because I actually like their decision, right? It's not the play call that I'm a huge fan of, and certainly Foles doesn't. It's not like there's anything open, but so Foles is basically going to see that Seattle's in zone and think to himself, if this linebacker stays where he is and Bird runs this post route, I've got to hit the flat as fast as possible and like hope that this corner fades up. That's the best shot we've got on this play. It's a simple little read. It's not a phenomenal play call, but it's more to say that because Akusai, you're talking about that. I want to then take a look at the next 2 drives after this, because there are a lot of people that look at 4th down calls in isolation, right? They say, okay, so it's 4th and 4, right? At the 4-yard line. Why would you go for it and give up points? And my argument would be, actually, you could be pretty pro 4th down, because in this, I would tell you with a straight face that this call and then the ensuing series, especially against Pete Carroll, a conservative play caller, was all just sort of one collective touchdown. And we'll walk through it. So, like we said, this call doesn't work, mostly because this corner doesn't fall off. Foles takes the snap. He passes Bird. The instant he passes Bird, he's going to cover Bird, and he's got David Montgomery. Montgomery's supposed to win this battle against Bobby Wagner, the linebacker, and he doesn't. He doesn't win that either. So even if the corner had faded up, the Bears aren't getting in the end zone. Like, their one-on-one matchup didn't work here in the first place, and so it's not a good call. The call ends up with 2 defenders swallowing Montgomery. Montgomery also doesn't win against, looks like it's Brooks, the linebacker, 56. So good play on his part to stop the Bears as they turn the ball over at the 2-yard line. But like we talked about, Seattle is run by Pete Carroll, one of the most conservative coaches in football to this point. So, okay, now all you've done is you've given them the ball inside the 2, which what are the Seahawks going to do? They're going to run the ball, right? And so they do. And the Bears are ready for it with a pretty well-loaded box. They make a nice little play. That's Gibson. That's Shelley gets in on it a little bit. Or like, we'll talk about that in just a second, Bob. Like, I'm rolling. But so Gibson does a nice job handling this double team. Honestly, I wish I was kidding. He handles this double team better than I've seen Bilal Nichols handle a lot of double teams. And so you take that as an edge defender. But so he cleans things up for Ogletree, who gets over the top and helps make the tackle. Seahawks get 2, right? We'll go through all of these plays as a collection. So Bears miss. Now it's 2nd and 8 at the 4-yard line. From there, this was a phenomenal play by Artie Burns. Let's take a look at what it is. The Bears, especially to kick this game off, they were camping out underneath that dotted line, if not this dotted line. Like, for some reason, I haven't seen enough Seattle footage to tell you what their tendencies are, but they must have a quick game reliance because the Bears corners did not care. Like, you'll see that they basically suggested that anything going deep is the safety's problem because Seattle's never going to send 2 of them that way. And so in this moment, you see Burns not even drop, just immediately look. He sees that Metcalf is stopping, so he attacks it immediately, hits the gets a tackle as the ball shows up. That's legit. I mean, Jan, I feel like Artie Burns has really struggled, but this game, maybe it's just the snow. Maybe he was maybe he was bear weather. You know what I mean? But Burns was just on one. Like, that was fun. And so from there, okay. I remember I was joking with my dad about this, at that moment. So now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 9. What are the Seahawks going to do? they're going to run it again. Like, they're going to try to get out of the shadow of their own end zone. That's the old like adage, right? Is that you're trying to get the punter to the 5-yard line so that he doesn't have to stand way back there. And so, of course, they're going to take the ball and they're going to, they false start. So when you go for these deep fourth downs, like especially the really deep ones, if you don't get it, have a shot to make a decent play on defense. And sure, everybody likes to bring up the safety, right? But you put the offense in an incredibly uncomfortable position where, yes, they catch some breaks, like they get that false start, so on and so forth. But Bruce Irvin gets really excited about the false start. But you're also putting them, Biscuit Beef saw exactly what I meant. But you also put them in a position where they're trying to be smart with the football and just don't end up getting much. So now at like 3rd and 11, they decide they're not going to run the ball, and instead they try to pass it. The Bears do a great job covering this up. Like, they've got Eddie Jackson sitting over the top of a triple bracket. Seattle loved to throw these little triple brackets, like triple releases on the Bears, and they didn't get much off of it. Metcalf jets down the side of the field, but he's bracketed by Thomas Graham sitting underneath, with Deion Bush sitting over the top. It's not perfect in the world of personnel, but it's good enough to take any relevant throw away. And the Bears force 4th down. Really nice coverage all around. Good decision by Russ to just get rid of the ball because there was nothing there. He takes a look to that left side, and you'll see on this end right here that the Bears did a great job with, 26 back. Ogletree covers him. Eddie Jackson's there to accept anything in breaking because, especially from an offensive perspective, you're probably trying to hit something over the middle, and that's exactly where Jackson's trying to watch for. So Russ gets rid of the ball. He's standing in his own end zone, and now the 4th down decision plus 3 good plays on defense leads to the punter taking a short punt. And I'm sure we all remember what happens from there. Like, these kinds of decisions don't have to be made in a vacuum of, oh man, what if the Bears had gotten like this, that, or the other? Oh, what if they'd converted? Well, as soon as this punt goes off and it's short and Dazz Newsome takes it, jets to the sidelines, beats the first guy to him, and ends up putting the ball back on the 13, I mean, this is part of the reason that exactly Threesies, this is part of why you can be willing to go for it a little bit more, especially in those red areas, because all you're doing, you're not, I think too many people can occasionally get tied up in, oh, you gave the other team momentum. Well, maybe, but at the same time, the Bears are able to get, yes, it takes a really good like punt return, and sure, but all of a sudden they're back on the 15-yard line just 5 plays later. Like, it exactly Threesies. In the world of field position, going for it here means you get 7 or you give them something rough to get out of. And Seattle couldn't get out of it. That was probably a big moment for them. Like, in the world of the story of this game, had they been able to get out of there, I think the game might swing differently. But instead, it puts the Bears right back in at least the driver's seat to their first touchdown of the game, and they're able to just hand the ball off and pound it in from there, which I think everybody's a fan of. Right, Eric? Scott, totally agree. There is an element of, do you believe in your D? I think that there's also an element of just clamping down as best you can on on the other offense and basically daring them to do something. And I'm with you, Biscuit. Oh, this, by the way, so the Bears take, I think it's a holding call. Let me see. Yeah, Akusai, I get that. Like, that it reduces the expected points. It basically gives your defense an advantage if you make them go the entire length of the field. But so, of course, in typical Bears fashion, they take a holding call immediately, right? Why wouldn't it be? So, as soon as this happens, like, both DTs are just going to blow the Bears up right here. Like, that's Mustafa getting destroyed. That's a Fady on the other side. Like, man, these defensive tackles just ate the Bears alive. 97, 67 in this case. So it's not even 99 who beats Mustafa, but he gets over his back. 97 punches through enough to force Montgomery out, and one of them holds. I can't remember who it is. So let's see the note sheet. At least this one. So we're looking at the touchdown drive right here. It's on JP Holtz. Thank you, JP. Thanks. Like you said, Holtz is in the game. We're running the ball. As soon as we do, Holtz gets called for that hold right there, because I don't think he was expecting the guy to come to him. This blocking style, which, to be clear, it's like a block, right? It's more of a grip, all things told. Most of the time you see like a tight end do that when he doesn't expect the ball to come to him, because if he did, he would block him differently. And so Holtz gets called on a hold that still bad. Like, I'm not excusing him for it. More just helping illustrate the potential why behind it. Because, hey, we're Bears fans. We got to find the whys. But this is a play that I think Seattle would want to have back, where, guys, maybe this is what Matt Nagy thinks all of his curls will be, right? But Marquise Goodwin's just going to run a basic curl route, and the defender just gives it away for free. Like, not only the curl route, but the yards after the catch, too. Maybe there's some footing in this. Like, that would make a lot of sense to me if he lost his footing right here and didn't end up getting to it. But Goodwin catches it and turns it into free yardage, like a 14-yard gain, what could have been just 8. And that is, that's really good for Chicago. Like, this was almost a get-out-of-jail-free card in and of itself, that the Bears went from 1st and 20 all the way up. Oh, I liked it, Scott. Don't worry. They all the way up to 2nd and 6. All of a sudden, they're back in it. And so, of course, being that it's 2nd and 6, they've got to hand it off to Darnell Mooney. And of course, being that the Bears are running outside, they don't get anything. But, yeah. This was, let me see. So, one thing to watch on this one, you're going to see they had Herbert here on the outside, and 29 does not care at all about the running back stretched out. And to be fair, I don't either. Like, you put your running back all the way on the outside, either he's blocking or he's not somebody you're really worried about with the safety over the top. So, all right, you kind of just let him go. 29 watches it, quite literally just ignores Herbert, so Herbert doesn't get a block down. And hey, you know what? You can take a look at number 83, Dazz Newsome. He really tries. He really fights on this one. Like, you want to talk willingness to block? This was a fun little play. Newsome's just going to jump out. He's going to get in front. He's not a huge dude, so he's definitely not going to win a physical battle. But there's something to be said for, as we've seen with Darnell Mooney, number 11, who's not particularly big either, that effort and heart can actually win some blocking assignments. It sounds silly, but I mean, it's real. But so then 3rd down, because why wouldn't it be, right? And Foles is going to come through. Bears run tight end post with like a pick route right underneath, and neither of them get open. So I'm with you, Greg. I think that's pretty decent blocking for a wide receiver with Montgomery on the back end right here. And so both tight ends get covered by, to be fair, a lot of players. He did, Bob. And so Foles is going to step up after Mustipher gets beat. He's going to find Montgomery right here, and Montgomery's going to make a nice little catch. He makes a nice little catch with a linebacker bearing down on him, number 6, bearing down on him, so a defender right there. And no ace. Demir cannot win blocking assignments. But so, Foles pumps the fake, finds Montgomery. Look, do you want to criticize the unnecessary jump? I say who cares. But he comes down with a big catch, and you always like to see your offensive line rallying to the football, but yeah, this was nice. Like, good 1st down conversion. Rally to the football. Push it on over. Here we solid. Bears have the ball on the 2. They almost did Threezy, and they followed it up by just getting him that little bit closer. They call this short. I'm surprised they did, but they almost, you get the idea. Like, I think it's Borum has a decent block right here, so he does solid. I think he doesn't. I don't think he does, and I don't think Daniels does either. But, right? But so, Whitehair doesn't get a ton. They lose him. Mustipher loses control of his man. normal stuff, right? Montgomery is kind of the real deal. 3Z. I'm not even kind of. I think it's hard to look around for running backs and be like, that one's bad. Like, Montgomery's great. The question is, how much is he worth? And that's a question that I'm glad I don't have to answer, because I think running backs are easier to find than other positions. And but then again, the Bears don't necessarily need to be looking for running backs, even though they have Herbert. If Herbert right on their roster, I don't know. To me, it's a real quandary, because then Daniels might have done fine, Bob. Totally might have. I'm moving quickly and totally off the top of my head. But so from there, Montgomery plunges in, 7-7 ball game. Scott, in the world of which lineman do we build around, I would tell you that in a perfect world, so we need to be clear here that there are some of these guys where I'm going to use all 72 Leno and say Borum is exciting. Biscuit, I think I'm assuming that Monty's going to ask for $6 million per year, something closer to what Cohen got. And that's a good question. Like, is he worth that? Is he worth $8 million, for instance? I don't think anybody's thinking that Montgomery's going to ask for $12 million a year. But the Bears, so I understand that everybody thinks that the Bears have a lot of cap, but the Bears also have less than half of a football roster filled. So they need the money to sign bodies. But anyways, Borum, I want to pick out right here because, Scott, you asked your question a couple times. I want to get to it, right? Which lineman should we build around? Borum should be no better than your fourth lineman in a perfect world. I don't think anybody should aim for Borum to be your third and, God forbid, your second or best lineman on the field, because I think Borum is going to have his days, right? And I think he'll be solid in pass protection, but I don't think Larry Borum is the ultra stud that I think some people are making him out to be, and I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd rather tell you something low and then move up from there, but I think he can be an average, maybe below average tackle, and that's a massive upgrade over bad tackles. I mean, 3Z, I think that he's okay, right? Like, I wouldn't suggest that he's amazing, even good, but I would tell you that he might push for average, and that can be hard to find. So until you find somebody better, I don't think you need to shift him to guard, especially because I don't think that he has the nastiness that I think makes a good guard good. But you asked who I'd build around. I would keep Jenkins. I would keep let me draw that better. I'd keep Borum. I'd keep Jenkins. That's pretty obvious, right? I'd try to sign a free agent center. Somebody like Ryan Jensen makes a lot of sense. I'd make a good offer, as good as I could, for James Daniels, and then I'd either look in the draft or free agency for another left guard. But so I'd probably start with just your tackles, Scott, and then I'd completely rebuild the interior with maybe keeping Daniels if he's willing to stay for not too much, and I don't have a good mind for that, but Daniels hasn't been bad. Daniels hasn't been good. There's a real case to be made that Daniels might be the Bears' best offensive lineman this year. The question is whether you think that that's an award that matters, in my honest opinion. But so, Jan, I'm with you. I don't know. And Bob, I think that they could cut white hair if they wanted to, but at this point, I would, I do remember Akusai and Biscuit. Daniels is one of our highest rated linemen. Again, the question is whether you think that that's an award worth celebrating or more of like a, tallest small person situation. But so, do I think that the Bears should have somehow kept Leno? Not really. I mean, the Bears, in my honest opinion, I would have said that if Leno had played here another year, that would have been fine, and then I would have cut him. It's not a matter of what he's doing in Washington, where he's had a solid year, aside from being the hit that got Fitzpatrick injured. So, tackle stuff, right? I mean, we haven't certainly gone through and just picked out a bunch of... we're not picking out the guys that got Fields and Dalton hurt, but you get the idea. Anyways... Getting back to the conversation at hand here. So if Leno had been a left tackle, I don't think Jenkins and Borum play. That said, we played Jermaine Ifedi over Larry Borum in this game, for crying out loud, right? Like, we played, remember, Jermaine Ifedi's on a 1-year deal. Like, he's got nothing that matters for the Bears next year. And it took Jenkins getting hurt for Borum to play. To me, that's ridiculous. Like, I think 75 needs every single like shred of snaps that he can get. If anything, once Jenkins got hurt, I probably would have shifted Ifedi over and let Borum stay at right tackle, for crying out loud. Like, yeah, exactly, Kusai. Captain Jermaine Ifedi. Like, that's what I should have said. Or I would have, like, benched Ifedi and put Wilkinson in so that I could keep Borum there. The fact that they switched him over drives me crazy, because I don't think that that's good for a young tackle, where you can at least pick, like, you can at least let him pick a side, for crying out loud. But that's just my 2 cents. And yeah, I mean, let me see. Oh, yeah, Greg, I wouldn't get too nervous. Jenkins has played a game. Like, we saw him play a really bad game against, what is it? Like, we saw him play a bad game against the Packers, where he came in the middle of it. He then took one week and immediately looked tremendously better, in my opinion, the next week against the Vikings. And from there, he got hurt. So we're not looking at a ton. But I don't know. I think he's looked better than than a lot of the Bears offensive linemen, especially given that he's got a nasty streak to him, which I get it. I think it's meatball-y too. And you see my eyes closed because I'm almost embarrassed by it. But I do think that the Bears offensive line could use an edge, and Jenkins provides that edge better than 68, better than 65. If anything, I feel like Whitehair gets caught out of pocket a little too often, which, yeah, Ace, I always felt like the Harry Highstand thing was just a matter of results. It was 2 years of terrible running games. So bad. The 2019 and 2020 running games were abysmal. The 2018 one wasn't even good. So they made a move at offensive line coach, was it a good one? A lot of people would look at a lot of development things that they've got going on right now and say, no, we should have kept Highstand, but man, his running game does look better. I mean, they basically just call the same play over and over. Credit to them. They're not trying to do anything like sneaky or weird. But yeah, I'm with you, 3Z. I think that there's an element of bully ball that's always helpful. You do need to get yards when you need them. I don't know. I've really tried to take this year to kind of just see all sides when it comes to offense, and it's all holistic. And I'm with you, Jan. I mean, that's the thing. I'm not trying to come down on Highstand. It's more to say that him plus Helfrich seemed like they were involved with the running game. I don't know what you guys saw over the last couple of years, but he definitely was one of the chairmen, if you will, over some bad running games, and people get fired for that. But so let's see. Yeah, no, I hear you, Grant. I had to read that a couple times just to make sure I knew which angle you were coming at. But so I think Seattle blew an opportunity. That 2nd and 20 in particular sticks out to me. But then the Bears move forward. We're gonna see some of the bad at this point. Like, let's honestly just go through some plays. No, I'm with you, Greg. I mean, I think the key difference that we can separate here, because that beatball word gets thrown around, and I hate using it, honestly, because I think that it's kind of mean. Most of the time, people are picking an opinion that they disagree with and making fun of somebody for that, and I don't like that. You know what I mean? But I think that there's an element to modern football, for instance, a pass-first mentality, going forward on 4th downs in certain areas, that are a little less practical according to old school football, like potentially adding running elements to your quarterback, so on and so forth. Like, there's a lot of modern stuff that I do think, I don't want to say it's overwhelming, it's just really different, right? But I don't think that means that you only need an offensive line that pass protects, and that when they go to run the ball, they get their hands slapped away and they end up on their butts, and that's a winning football team, right? Like, at the end of the day, football is a contact sport. It's one of the most physical sports on earth, because, like, especially these guys in the trenches, they're just making contact on every single play, right? And so the ability to have somebody who, I mean, for lack of a better word, takes it personally and plays like it. Like, you don't really care if Sam Mustipher takes it personally. I hate to be that guy. Like, I'm not looking to just dunk on 67 right now, but let's use him as an example. If Mustipher played angry, you wouldn't know because he doesn't have the strength to show it to you, right? Like, maybe it would show up as an after the play foul or something like that, but he tries to he tries to execute with all the power that he has at this point. It's just not much. And so somebody like Jenkins, who at that point, like kind of like Akusai's saying, who's just bigger than everybody. I mean, I wish that we could see it, but 76 is just huge. Like, he's a big dude. And so when he gets out, especially on moving plays, but let alone any normal running play, and just beats up on the edge in front of him, that's cool. Like, that's great. But yeah, Bob, I'm with you. Our interior gets pushed back. This is not a good rep from Whitehair, who just gets... did I go too far? I did. So let me go back a little bit. 65 jumps out on this one. It's not good. Like, this is the guy who's being paid de facto $12 million, and he jumps out in front of his guy. Guy wraps around, makes a play. Not good. Not happy. Like, Whitehair's degradation over the last little while really bothers me. I don't know if Whitehair just missed the call, because he almost literally looks like he's going around him. Like, you see Mustipher on this play get out into the second level, and it looks like Whitehair's trying to do the same thing, but then that little hand grab makes me think that he just flat missed him. That's not great. But so Bears take a loss almost immediately. They go for then a pass afterwards, which is just a basic out route. I mean, this is the strip sack that we're talking about. I don't know what happened to Whitehair. It feels like he just gambles. Like, Bob, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But, so then, I think it's a Fady who just gets beat. Like, his feet go out from under him. Maybe part of it's the cold, but even Larry Borum's got better feet than that. I mean, Borum, 3Z, I totally get what you're saying when you say Borum's not a tackle. Like, he doesn't look vicious in the way that somebody like Jenkins does, but Borum does a better job of being in the way most of the time than somebody like Ifedi, who his hips are already turned, like he's lost his footing. Dunlap has all the leverage right here, and he's able to get a hit on Foles that I still think was a fumble. Like, I'll be the first to tell you that, and you got to remember, this isn't Daniels doing the protection calls, Jan. This is Daniels signaling the snap. I don't know if he's doing the protection calls. Like, I truly don't. But I can tell you that Daniels is just signaling the snap at this point for when Mustipher needs to let it go. And, yeah, high-waisted on Ifedi's part. Like, you can tell as he gets into his stance here that as soon as this happens, when his hips are... So, like, you take a look at Borum, and Borum is engaging in a bull rush. He loses, like, he doesn't even have a ton of power. This isn't a great rep from 75, but the key is that Borum's hips keep, like, are, what would you say, perpendicular to a line between the defender and the quarterback. If Fady's hips, on the other hand, are not. And so as soon as you get that leverage, where his hips should be about there, right? That difference, that's all leverage. That's the stuff that Quinn works off of too, right? And so as soon as you see that, that's a problem. And I think Foles kind of knows it, but man, I am shocked. I am still shocked that they called this what they did. And I take that. Like, that's... I don't know. Yeah, as a Bears fan, you'll take the wins where you get them. I thought this was right on the line, and I don't know. So, personal opinion. It all depends on what you call arm motion, right? So, does the arm actually have to be moving forward, like the wrist, like the forearm, or does Foles' elbow moving forward count as his arm moving forward? They seemed to rule that because Foles' shoulder turned right there, that it counted as a throw. That's the only way that I could see it making sense, because I thought, personally, that he pulled his shoulder in, got hit right here, and then propelled the ball forward, but did it loosely. It's totally just me rules philosophizing at that point. But I'm surprised that Foles got away with this like he did, and we take it. But yeah, I'm with, like, for sure Kusai helped that the ball went forward. It just didn't. Yeah, you know. We all know. But so from there, Foles makes some magic. Kmet does a good job, like we talked about, jumping on in. And Jordan, you're totally right. I mean, it could be, but it was a tight one, is all I'm really trying to say. And tight ones can go either way. I've seen them go, especially a lot of directions against the green and gold Packers, right? But that's how it goes. So then Kmet makes a nice little play. Marcus, he does. He builds it for 1 year, and then he's going to win the Super Bowl, and he's going to turn off the Xbox, right? But so Foles short arms this. This was a nice little deep concept that the Bears called, where they're going to do, I swear it's the only one that they do know how to do, but they run a scissor. And so they come through intersecting, right? And as they do, Mooney's got a lot of space. Man, does this defender make a great play. Like, credit to what this linebacker does on this one, where he ends up, I think they don't call it roboting, but like he face guards Mooney, in my opinion, perfectly. And Foles probably leads the ball a little bit short too, but I didn't think Brooks interfered. Like, at obviously very first moment, I was like, what? Because we're all fans. But Foles lets this thing go, and Brooks never makes contact with Mooney. Like, even right there, that's the first time they touch. That's a beautiful face guard that, hey, you're not going to get that every time. Like, even when you go for the face guard, you're taking a risk. But credit to him, because I would rather Foles get this ball a little further out myself. He doesn't. I can't tell if part of it was pressure, but he does a really great job of just maintaining where he is. And if anything, maybe Foles or maybe Mooney could have worked back for it a little bit harder, because I do think that by the time Mooney jumps, he's kind of jumping backwards. I don't want to criticize somebody because just to make sure we're all on the same page, I don't want to criticize somebody because he doesn't dive back. Look at how hard that angle is, right? Of just like what I'm asking him to do, and I get that. But he doesn't end up quite drawing the DPI, and I would pin that on the throw. But like you're saying, Jan, I do think that because Mooney kind of gives up ground in pursuit of the throw instead of just planting and going straight through the defender, he at least doesn't get the call. Pesa, I'm not sure. Foles got knocked around, and a lot of the DPIs that he got were just DPI, but I don't know. Hard to tell. So this one hurts because this is a holding call. Technically, this didn't happen, but man, isn't Montgomery fun? Like, look at this. Stiff arms the defensive tackle, gets to the second level, stiff arms Kmet's guy, or Whitehair's guy, and finishes it out for an 11-yard run. Like, it's a snowy game. You're away. You're trying to pull something together. Mustipher loses his guy. That's the hold right there, by the way. Montgomery gets through that, and then plows forward for extra yardage. 32 is fun to watch. Like, so fun to watch. But, nah. It doesn't count. This is an example of the Bears shooting themselves in the foot, which happens. But so, Marcos, do I think the Bears do better or worse with Fields? It's a great question. I don't know anymore. Like, I'll be the first to tell you that I think that this game plan actually helped Foles do what he's best at. Like, I think that Andy has game plans that do what he's best at. I think Foles has game plans that do what he's best at. Both of them have like major West Coast, like what would you call it? A skill set. Like they have West Coast background. West Coast offense fits what both Andy Dalton and Nick Foles do to a T. And I think that that's what this offensive staff understands a little bit better. So I tend to think that given that the way that the Bears wide receivers treated Seattle, and certainly the way that that the offense seemed to be able to throw the ball when they needed to, I don't know, maybe. Like, there are a lot of people out there trying to say, I think Fields wins this game, and I actually don't know. Like, In fact, I might actually tell you with a straight face that Fields could have easily lost this game. I mean, he's still a rookie. He's still figuring a lot of things out. And the offense seems to just not know what to call when he's in the game most of the time. And so in that same way where I used to pin this on Trubisky and say Trubisky must not be able to understand anything else, I don't know if the offensive staff knows how to call something without a veteran's input. Like, my key that I look at, and it was the Lions, Marcos, but so it was the Lions. But my key that I find myself looking at is I'm not 100% certain that the offensive staff knows how to call like a game without a veteran input. Pisa, that's exactly what I'm thinking. That I think that Andy Dalton and Nick Foles have more have more influence in what plays are called than Fields does. And I think that helps the staff. I don't know. I'm guessing, right? I'm entirely speculating. But I don't think that it's an accident that Nick Foles and Andy Dalton get, let's just say, different game plans than Justin Fields does. And those game plans seem to involve more read routes. They involve more stuff that I think that those guys are good at, right? Like little bitty things, like what we saw in that end zone where like both Graham and Kmet were covered, and Foles just steps up in the pocket and finds Montgomery. Is it something Fields couldn't do? He could easily do it. Would he do it? I don't know. Fields has a lot of options to go through, but there's a lot of things Fields needs to work on. By no means am I low on him. I'm really excited, for instance, about Fields' future. I couldn't be, I honestly, I don't actually think that I could be a lot higher on him, like in the world of reality, because there are some people trying to carve his bust for Canton right now, and that's ridiculous. He's got to stop fumbling, period. I would say, Threezy, his interceptions aren't so bad. Like, really, a lot of them are rookie moments. He rarely seems to put the ball in true danger, but he's fumbling too often, and that's got to get fixed. But with that in mind, him winning this game isn't all that important. This to me was a true reminder that Foles is as professional as they come. Like, this is what you want when you get a veteran quarterback, truly. Anyways, it's 2nd and 20, which is why the Bears are going to straight run the ball, right? They're going to have Cody Whitehair pull. They're going to have all their wide receivers block. It's a kill call, like we saw, so maybe they had a pass on and then ran it. But I hate this so much. 2nd and 20. Again, you'll see Foles right here. This is where he's going to kill it. So I think they were confused. Both Whitehair and Daniels are looking back, and we see a little bit of open palms from Daniels, which has me thinking, like, I'm just trying to, what is it? Like, I'm just trying to extrapolate and best represent what I'm seeing. But it's 2nd and 20. This is a passing down through and through. It's not 1st and 20, which technically might be a running down. I would hate that, but it technically might be. Like, this is, this makes it look like Fields killed it out of sheer necessity so that they could get a playoff, and it's not a great one, but there you go. Jan, I hear you. Like, I think that's a decent way to put it. I feel like Foles did a really good job of managing the pocket. That's the number one thing I would look at him and say. Foles did a good job of wafting through his reads and not getting rattled by Raphael, that's awesome. Not getting rattled by the pressure around him in various points. Like, he got smoked a bunch of times. Thanks so much, Raph. That's really meaningful. And he just kept going, like you would expect of somebody like him. But the in that capacity, Foles also found 3rd downs where he could get him. He and the offense worked together on that. Like, there was a whole bunch of things that I think Foles did really well, and they were all little, right? They weren't, Bob, you mentioned Borum on that one. This is rough. I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that Borum's been at right tackle all year. Like, if you take a look at the way that Borum's operating, you could see he's putting so much thought into his kick step that as soon as he's got to recover back, inside, he doesn't take a great recovery step, and I think a lot of that is because his left and his right foot are basically super mixed up right now. And yes, Harrison, you're nailing it. That's exactly what I think Foles is. But so, anyways, there is, let's see here. The Bears offense was just kind of all over the place, and that's fine. Like, they did some things well, they did some things poorly. On this one, they obviously got annihilated. Moving forward a little bit, Foles had a scramble, which you don't see often, which is why we're going to take a look at it. We'll move a little quicker here, and then we'll get to some defense. We'll wrap up. But so Foles sees that he's got a vert pattern that's actually open, but instead of throwing the ball, he decides that it's first down. I think he thinks that the safety could range over there, and Nick Foles, for crying out loud, jumps right on into scramble mode, picks up 7 yards. Again, this feels like a rare occurrence, like a comet sighting, you know? But he legs it out, big on him. And so then you see a lot of RPOs, like, throughout this offense, a lot more than there were. A lot more than there were with Dalton, too. I saw on the order of about 8 this game, where 54 stays in on the pass right there, so the Bears hand it off. Now, they weren't all successful, but this one picks up a first down, so technically it counts. It's 1.5 yards, and it gets on through, but sure, right? And then Seattle's going to run blitz him right after this. So, again, we'll move right on quick, where you're going to see the whole Seattle defense close with run gaps right there, and they just suffocate the poor Bears offense. Bears lose like 3 yards. It's bad. I think Seattle realized that the Bears are just not a neutral pass situation or a neutral pass team. So because on 1st and 10 back there, they let Foles scramble like off of a pass play, I think they just bet that they were going to run it again. And so they bet, they were right, and they get a big one. I think, personally, that Seattle, I don't know, they had their moments. That's what makes this game so funny, is that I want to say, like, I think Seattle had the Bears' number. They really didn't. I mean, their defensive line kind of bullied the Bears. You'll see that here, right? Where both Ifedi and Borum get pushed back into Foles, and Borum's guy makes the tackle, which sucks. Mustapher gets bullied, like he gets walked back by number 99, and then, like, obviously 94 cuts right through Borum after a little bit of handwork. He sacks Foles, and the drive is over. And then Ifedi gets beat on the next play too, which isn't good. That's right here, where you're going to see him beat. Ball comes out. No. Watching 74 was hard. Like, the Bears could use a lot of help on offensive line. They could use a lot of help on offense, period. Stop me if you've heard that before. But, man, Ifedi did not play great, which hurt. Yeah. Oh, man, Akusai. That's very sad. But Poona Ford's a good player. I get that, Andrew, if you're, like, chalking up the sack. Like, this one, probably second down. Let's see. That's him picking up. I need to take a look at who was open. I'm mostly talking about Borum's hand technique, where I don't think he's particularly engaged. If you do at this point, oh, I got you. You mean the one back there? No, I got you there. That makes a lot of sense. This one where Foles gets so deep, yeah, not a lot of offensive tackles are going to stop that. That's not a great arc play at that point. I like that. Thank you. I always really appreciate it when people check that kind of thing. But, yeah, so he steps up. If he steps up, he might have something. Instead, he fades out. He gets hit. That's probably on Foles. I think I can forget sometimes that a big, statuesque quarterback like Foles can make sack-related mistakes too. But so, either way, like, all of a sudden, after that, the Bears come out on the next drive, and they have a much better idea of what they're doing, in my opinion. They run vert action that draws a defensive pass interference immediately. Like, you've got space on the check down. I love vert stuff, because the vert stuff either gets somebody open, like it does here, or it creates space underneath for an easy throw that you can turn into yardage. But so, this is the one where Newsome gets interfered on. He almost throws or not Newsome, it's Goodwin. But he almost throws an interception. Instead, it's a DPI. And I've watched this a couple times. Let me go back to the wide view here, where the foul occurs. Yeah, It's always funny trying to enforce these because it feels like it's a long defensive holding, right? It's like you don't want to give somebody 5 yards for something that happened 15 or 12 yards downfield. So I get that you want to assign it a DPI penalty, but they also enforce it here because that's where the referee threw it. So the Bears will take the extra 8 yards, but it almost made me wonder whether there should be like a 15-yard defensive holding variant. And yeah, Kusai, look at that. Holt's in on a passing play, you get somebody open. Would you believe it? Maybe if you use your own formational tendencies and you use them in tricky ways, you could generate some offense. But from there, the Bears kind of keep rolling. Daniels doesn't get a particularly good block on 99, who, man, Woods was just a warrior. Like, you guys have already seen him make some plays. Like, it's not like I have to tell you Al Woods here is playing well, but gracious, like, he fights. He's fun to watch in the trenches. That's a player. I looked stuff up. If you care about PFF, he's Seattle's best PFF defensive player of the year, and that makes a lot of sense to me. They don't even have him as outstandingly good, closer to like a 75 on the year. So not even in the like true, or I guess above average, but not in the good territory yet. But gosh, he looked good against the Bears. I guess it's not too surprising, right? Quick play action, like pop out, get 6 yards, basic run on 3rd down. The Bears just did a lot of the stuff that they've been doing, but I mean, hey, when you roll out Foles and he just hits the quick flat, like that kind of thing helps. That's something that I would love to see Fields get better at, is just not taking normal plays and producing abnormally bad results. And no, Harrison, Wagner isn't higher, not this year, which surprised me too. But when I look at this guy, number 99, he's playing great. But so, oh gosh, oh man. I literally have this listed in my notes as white hair ... I took a quick look at it, and it's not hard to see where white hair just gets smoked by 67 and then 98 runs underneath. But it's tough to create running room when you have somebody who gets blown up that far, and then that hole's not there. You obviously, like, maybe if you're not David Montgomery, whose lateral mobility isn't phenomenal, right? You might be able to cut back that way, but that's linebacker territory. So you're really looking for a block there. The Bears do not get it, right? But then it's 2nd and 13, and the unthinkable happens, right? The unthinkable happens, where the Bears run a screen well. They get they get more than a first down. They get like 20 yards off of a screen pass. It's incredible. It helps that Seattle blitzes. Foles does a pretty good job with it, but it's not like he had much to do other than just try not to get hit. And I'm with you, Grant. It's a long way on that white hair play, but I would love to see him hit a reach block here and there, or at least give the guy a shove. Either that or the Bears need to figure out a way to scheme against it otherwise. Because I do feel like Whitehair and the rest of the Bears' offensive line ends up on the wrong end of a lot of those reach blocks sometimes, and I get it. A well-blocked, or like a truly well-blocked run, 11 good blocks out of 11 is hard to find. And when you get them, they're very, very good. We'll actually see one here in a little bit. Montgomery's going to grind forward. I love this next play. The play after this specifically. And I'm with you, Jan. I feel like the screen blocks are always kind of goofy because you end up with 2 guys going, "Hey, man, follow me." Oh, you didn't. But so this is where the Bears are going to try that fake screen. It's 2018 again. At least that's what they're thinking, as I think it's Mooney who's going to pop out for the bubble. And then they're going to have Bird and Goodwin go on down. It's probably, knowing the way they like to do this, probably looks like that. With the bubble out. But so I loved this. My little brother made a great joke about it, where the bubble's not open, but neither is either of the fakes. So Foles is just going to throw it away. A nice reminder that it's not 2018, and you can't just necessarily trot the same play out over and over. Eventually, well, then again, I think Seattle just catches a break. It's not like they were totally wise to it, but, I mean, we've watched enough of these Bears games. When's the last time they threw the bubble, right? Foles threw one earlier in the game. Dalton had one, I guess, but it's not like it's such a common play, and they have such a common player that they run it with, that, especially when it's Bird, right, that this is going to draw the extra defensive attention that somebody like Tariq Cohen did back in the day. But I always think it's funny when people try a shot play and the shot isn't there. It just looks goofy, right? So I have fun with that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But so from there, basic handoff, silly stuff, right? Holtz comes in right here. Surprise, it's a run. And then I think it's Daniels that gets beat on this one. He gets cut on the inside, which, hey, Montgomery does a decent job working out of it. Man. It's wild watching the way that 99 leverages himself. So it looks like the way that they're stepping, they're expecting it to be hitting this way, which means obviously that somebody cutting straight up that line is not going to help. So I don't know if that's like the problem, but the Bears are definitely not expecting that backside defender to make the play. Bob, that's the thing. I'm struggling to tell because I get the impression, and this is where I frankly could use a decent course on zone blocking rules, that you're trying to get up this lane right here. They end up getting some dirty yardage on the outside. Maybe they are trying to hit it outside because the tight ends are certainly gunning for it there. But I don't know. I could use a brush-up course. That would make a lot of sense. But so then they try a screen. It feels weird. I can't quite tell what they were doing. Foles kind of surprises Damian Williams with the ball. Not awesome. But it happens. The Bears offense is just sort of trying screens, trying quick passes, trying a couple shots here and there, keeping the run alive. And then you get that really nice Herbert run. Koos, I think it was you talking about how the Bears couldn't run out of the shotgun. Well, they sure did here. 65 does a great job as well. That's Cody Whitehair. Foles gets smoked on this play. I'm almost surprised he doesn't he doesn't draw a flag because he hands the ball off and 97 just thumps him. Anyways, there he is on the ground. And then Cody does a good job downfield. Like, hits that block nicely, moves on. I guess he was a Kusai. But so you could see Whitehair in particular does a really solid job out in space, turning 67 right there, getting forward, pumping 56 a little bit. Like, that was really solid. Like, I don't know where this Whitehair is sometimes, because that's the lineman that matters, right? Like, that's who you're looking to be one of the Bears' best offensive linemen. And I mean, I don't think he was in this game, that's for sure. But I don't know. And so the Bears' offense was kind of all over the place, like we talked about. I mean, the Bears did just enough right against a Seattle team that was willing to kind of give them things here and there. It was not, what was it, stingy with giving out gifts. But they also made plenty of their own problems, like we saw. They got smoked up front for the overwhelming majority of the game, and they just sort of cut through it anyways. Credit to Foles, who got annihilated throughout 2022 for not getting sacked a ton, and I mean like a lot, you know? Exactly, Grant. Can't ever do that again. But my overarching theme for this game, which granted, it's not like it's an absurdly strong take. Oh, here's a nice little Kmet catch, by the way. Snuck in behind. Like, this is what I would hope Kmet gets solid at, is just finding a little soft spot, catching the ball, going down. It's simple. Yes, it's not like the warrior running that we saw earlier, because Kmet did have a couple of neat little yak plays, and good for him on it. But this is something that I think is completely repeatable, is just being able to read a defense, recognize where defenders are, and get to a spot that your quarterback can deliver the ball in. Colin, it kind of feels like it, doesn't it? But so this did set up the QB sneaks, right? Where the Bears are, I think it is, what is this, 3rd and 1, like a long one. And I've got no issue with the QB sneak. I mean, man, 87 punches through there, but otherwise it looks like Foles has this clean. So let's see. Where's the defender that makes the play? Was it 97? Oh, Kmet just doesn't quite get to him in time. Because I actually feel like Mustafa did a solid job of getting forward. And then on 4th and inches, did y'all think he got it? I don't want to be the naysayer that said no, because I thought it's a cloud of bodies and it's impossible to tell, like at this stage. But did y'all think he got it? It looked to me like the spot was certainly a favorable one. And we take those, right? But yeah. Then, of course, they take a sack. So it felt like they took one step forward, one step backwards. So you're going to get a sack a little bit later. I think it's the play after this one. Oof. There it is. 2nd down. Sat back in the shotgun. I think it's Daniels, this guy. Yikes. I didn't take a look at what the play concept is here. What are they looking for? Looks like it's not smash when they but so oh no, he definitely didn't. Akusai. But so it looks like they're going with just a basic like double outs right there, and then as Foles starts to look down and maybe look left a little bit, Daniels' guy reaches him. I probably wouldn't put this on Foles. He got beat right here. Let's see. I think it's 94. Comes on the inside. Yeah, just swats his hands away. Immediately brings him down. It's a great play by him. Like, that's really solid. But so the Bears go from at the 4-yard line to at the 12. Not positive by any stretch, right? And then, oh, do they take a penalty? Oh, they do, don't they? Yep, that's Ifedi jumping off. Bummer. It really was, Bob. Almost like Daniels didn't affect him in the slightest. So then obviously it's 3rd and, what is that, 17? And 3rd and 17 is too far. Do you ever talk to JD like which JD, Colin? Let me see. Oh, Dickerson, right? I personally didn't. I haven't been doing this long enough for JD to know who I am. And if he did, he never told me. But I've listened to him a ton. I've read so many of his Bears articles. I've railed against what I thought was negativity that ended up being stark realism. I mean, he's covered the Bears for forever. Not to mention, I feel like he asked really good questions in a lot of his pressers, or asked. So, absolutely heartbreaking to hear. Like, oh man. I just can't even imagine. It's one of those things where I feel like that's just tremendously bigger than going through a 5-10 win, obviously. But I don't know. No, I'm with you, Bob, on that one. I would have loved for Monty to catch it too. Then the final drive, we'll watch it one more time because the Bears get a field goal there. They turn it over on downs a little bit later, which was a huge bummer. I think, right? Is it? Yeah, it's downs. It's not punt. But so Bird catches that. They advance a little bit. We'll just rip through some of this. Talk some defensive high and low lights. I do wish that the Bears could leverage these little, like, I don't know, not leverage. I just think it looks easy, obviously, when anybody runs an inside slant and you're actually able to complete it. Looks so clean. Basic RPO. Looks like a decent handoff. I'm with you, Biscuit. I feel horrible. Gosh. But yeah. This is the second to last drive, and I have no idea how y'all felt, but I know one thing that occurred to me was, at least I thought it was hilarious, where the Bears did turn it over on this series, if memory serves, but they didn't actually lose all that much time. Like, I remember this kind of thing, where if y'all had the same thought I did, and Mooney, man, this is one of those plays, like, this is a perfect play that I think describes who Mooney is and who Mooney isn't, because it would be great to see Darnell catch that, but I don't think he's ever going to. I mean, we're talking about somebody who's, what, 5'11"? Like, and 160 or 175 pounds probably. I don't think he's ever going to be the contested catch guy. I would love for him to be, but I think that you could sign other receivers to either get opener, not then Mooney, but like they get open, which loosens Mooney a little bit, especially if you vary his route concepts. But here, it's not like the route's that bad. It's just a really good play by the corner. Forces fourth down. They go for it. And I can't remember the play. Like, let me see here. Oh, this one. Oh, man. This one was so funny because I think I think Foles should have just channeled a little bit of that Fields energy. It's not a sure thing because this linebacker's attacking down, but it looks like Foles has it and just thinks to himself, I've got a running back even. And I'm surprised they didn't call that defensive pass interference. Not that I think that the defender did anything wrong, right? Like, this is that we're seeing it on Twitter, and we've probably have been for 6 weeks at the very least, that it's become extremely popular to say, I hate the intentional underthrow defensive pass interference, right? This is that. I'm almost certain that Foles just flicks it out there looking for a flag. Like, really. Because I don't think either it's just a really bad throw, or like that's where the ball ends up placed, is just a lofty ball that Damian Williams jumps back for, and the defender is right in the way. It's not like it's great coverage conventionally. It would have just been rewarding a bad throw. So I get the call. I just didn't know we were doing that yet, right? Like, I'm cool with not rewarding bad throws. Let's do it. But I can't help but wonder if the referees thought, okay, we already gave this guy 2. We can't give him 3 of these. Like, we can't, maybe he did, BG. Part of me thinks that truly it came down to, okay, Foles, you got the first 2. Like, we can't give you every one of these. We got to give at least one of these to Seattle. You got to put one, like, you got to get one, make one catchable, or we can't do anything. But you get the idea. It is funny to see that I think Foles might have actually had the yards with his legs. I mean, it would have been hilarious to see Foles scramble again. But yeah, there you go. I'm with you, Bob. I think it's probably DPI. Like, final state on this would be, to me, it's DPI, but it's not a DPI I want in the game. It's a DPI that's currently in the game, and I would love it if we started penalizing quarterbacks more. Honestly, even for intentional grounding. Like, I don't think if Foles theoretically threw the ball right here that we should call it intentional grounding just because he missed Damiere Byrd, quote unquote. But then again, maybe I'm being too hardcore there, and that could be pretty radical. Like, that's not that important. But so the Bears get the ball back, or not the Bears get the ball back. The Bears hand the ball off to Seattle. Maybe you could, Ace. And man, Penny's a tough runner. Ejax makes a nice little tackle here. And then we'll just rip through the last drive, the whole thing, right? Because it's just fun to watch top to bottom. Graham takes a block. Eddie Jackson with actually a really good tackle. Like, watching that again, he comes pretty much all the way across the field to light up Penny, put him on the ground. Russ, oh man, how did the Bears get the ball back here? Because it's not like Seattle scores, right? I would, but that's partially because while I love Robert Quinn's current production and think he's playing unbelievably, I don't see the Bears as being unbelievably, I don't see the Bears as being particularly competitive in 2022, and would be perfectly fine taking what they could get from there. No, Bob, the missed field goal was earlier, right? Let me see. I thought this was just, they missed 2? Or is this that one? No, see, they turn it over on... No, they punt. This is a punt drive, somehow. Oh, it's this flag. See, that's what I'm saying. This like, exactly y'all's reaction was was where I ended up surprised about a lot of the way Seattle played this, because they get the turnover on downs. Like, they get the play that should end the game, right? And sure, the Bears defense is fighting. They, by the way, pretty much rotated between like true two high looks and true one, or like more one high oriented looks with a lot of man coverage. They were trying to keep things simple for the COVID secondary. They didn't want to over like do too much. That's a nice play by Graham, by the way. Like, for as many things as Graham needs to work on, one of them obviously being press coverage, that's a really nice trigger to get downhill, force the running back down, and man, how big of a loss is that? So looks like they got backed up about 10 yards, which really helped them. And then corner shoots through, causes another loss of probably 2, like makes contact -5. Colin, I hope it didn't. I think that that's a real question that I'm sure the Bears are working out right now. But I think personally that it could be more viewed as pace is going away present and everybody's just fine. But so, let's see. Oh yeah, this is where Grant makes a double play right here. Maybe Grant. It sure feels like it, doesn't it? But so this is where Graham then sits on, I think it's a curl route, ironically, as they're just trying to, like, the Seattle's just trying to pick up whatever yardage they can. And Grant, or like, if it's a stronger catch, Graham's play doesn't matter, but it's a good quick trigger and a nice knockaway for a ball that isn't perfect. And then 27 gets there, blows the play up. And from there, of course, it's a punt, because what is that? It's like 2nd and 15 or something like that. But really nice trigger right there, that as soon as he sees that in break, he's on the slant, gets there, knocks the ball away. That's what you want to see from a young corner. It's mistakes and all. Like, it's the play-to-play stuff. It's what he's doing in the run game when, like, especially when left unblocked, right? It's I like that, Ace. It's little curl route denials that come, or that matter. It's the fact that he's not giving away yardage, let's say, quite as freely as I think Kendall Vildor is. So then Seattle has to punt. I'm with you, Harrison. I think Graham is a lot of fun. I did, and then cartwheels for cookies. You asked who do I think is better for Fields' or development. I would tell you it's probably Foles, but that's because the more I watch Nick Foles, the more Foles strikes me as a guy who's not near as athletic as Dalton is. Like, truly, not near as athletic as Dalton is, but he's brainy. Like, Foles knows his way around a ton of stuff. Like, especially, I mean, he's played tons of football. Obviously, he won a Super Bowl MVP, so he's been on all those stages. While Dalton's experience is just kind of different, right? Dalton knows how to be a franchise quarterback, how to carry himself, right? How to do all the interviews. Not that Foles doesn't, right? But Dalton's game is a little bit more jack of all trades, and if anything, he predetermines so many of his reads that I don't know. It's hard to tell. But hey, Atheist, how you doing? But I would think, what if I said both? Like, we're not, the Bears are probably not extending Andy Dalton, but BG, I think, let's put it this way. I think Foles had input. I don't think he was calling his own plays, but here we go. This is the fun one. We'll just soak this whole drive in, as Foles is going to find Mooney. That's a great ankle breaker, by the way, as then Mooney's going to fight his way for another, like, 10 extra yards. He just kept going, right? But I love watching routes like this, because for as many routes as Mooney will lose, because they happen, right? Mooney's going to basically snap this guy's ankles off on this curl. I don't know how he did it. Like, I don't know if he yelled something. I don't know if he just gave a certain signal with his body language, but that blast forward, that change of speed, ends up with 2 yards of separation. That is beautiful. Curls it upfield and obviously makes a big play out of it. And then you look at the back end, and Foles earned the roughing the passer, that's for sure. It wasn't even the hardest hit Foles has taken. Like, that 20-yard touchdown, I'm shocked Foles got hit. But on this one, he lets go of the ball, he gets hit in the face right there, and goes down afterwards. Solid, tough throw, and there you go. Atheist, exactly. The snow made this game fun to watch visually. And then, Threezy, I hope you're still there, because this was when David Montgomery just started to shine. Like, Foles just takes a look. He sees, okay, 29's carrying Bird up the field. I'm going to throw the flat, or like the swing right now. And so he does, and Montgomery bursts through two people, rips up. I would love to see Montgomery more involved in the receiving game. I think he can be. I mean, we like Montgomery in space, period, right? It doesn't matter whether he's got the ball in his hand or whether he's whether he's got the ball in his hands off of a running play or off of a passing play. Space is space. Here, Montgomery's gonna come through with the angle route. Ooh, look at this. I'm sure he did, atheist. But so Montgomery comes around on, honestly, a hilariously rounded angle route. Like, you take a look at this, it looks kind of more like that instead of a sharp angle, which, hey, you know what? You take it. Works his way around the defense right there, ends up wide open, just plows forward for another 15 yards. But so, yeah, Tevin got injured. But so, Spectre, I think the answer is... I don't really know. I think with Fields, Mooney ends up, let's see. I think I did, Bob. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Montgomery's so fun in the passing game. I don't know whether... I think Mooney's route running has been pretty consistent even with Fields. I don't want to be the guy who looks at the rookie and is like, it's the play calling. I don't know. It feels like pretty much all they call is curls and static stuff with Fields. So maybe there is an element of playing too soon. Foles can't give up the sack, by the way. Like, yes, there's something on the tackles, but if we'll kill Fields for fumbles, we have to kill Foles for it too. This was a terrible fumble, and maybe Ifeadi's play of the day. Because take a look here, right? You want to talk about a game of inches? Poona Ford and Jermaine Ifeadi both have a shot at this football, right? Both of them do. And when they go down for it, I would swear to you, Poona has a better shot at it in this moment. And I think Ifeadi just rips it away. Like, Ifeadi wins the fumble scrum, 100%. You could tell Ford doesn't have it. Not even close, right? But this was one of those plays that, I mean, quite literally saved the game. Because Foles can't fumble there. Yes, Daniels gets beat. Not good, right? But as soon as that ball goes down, like, Ifeadi diving on it, and he goes full stretch with his hands. That's Ifeadi's hands around the football right there, and then just wrenches it back out. That's legitimately important. It's so silly, right? But I keep going back to this frame right here. Let me see if I can freeze it again. So first 98, or what is it, 68, 97, Poona Ford makes a huge play to get Foles to pull the ball down. And once he does, I think it's Carlos Dunlap comes around, swats the ball out. But it's this frame right here where you could see the ball in Ifeadi's hands with Poona Ford's elbow right next to it. As far as like weight and strength goes, advantage absolutely Ford. Defense. But Ifeadi has just enough of the ball, he pulls it out. And that's really big. Good job. So then, 2nd and 14. This is that commit route that we talked about earlier. Flick. There it is. I guess it wouldn't surprise me. I was just taking a look at the pocket. Foles definitely... Some of it's the power of the clicker, but to act like Foles saw everything perfectly isn't fair. I would say Foles saw 85% of the game well, but he still had about 15% where I think maybe he picked the wrong thing, got unlucky, could have been a lot of things, but then you get that gorgeous Graham touchdown. Bears fans are looking for touchdowns any way they can get them, and you know what? We'll take this one, right? It's not near as pretty as, say, the Packers offense, which I'm not just saying because of Packers fans at the channel. It's more that every time we watch that Packers offense, they truly make everything look so easy. Instead, Foles is laying up a lollipop to Jimmy Graham, who pulls it down, and then Bird has to make, the catch of his life. Like, this was just a wild catch. And Pesa, so there was a drop that I can remember. There was at least Montgomery who dropped one just a little while ago. But yeah, I'm with you, John. I'd trade the one last week for this week if I could do it, or like if I could. But we only get the ones we get, right? But so from there, Bears defense closed it out. And I mean, here's my question, okay? we could go through schematics, but I think the most complex part about these game reviews, like truly these game reviews, right, is I care about the offensive line. I care about watching the receivers. I barely care about watching Nick Foles, like truly. And I'm sure you guys do too. I don't even really care about watching the defense, which isn't to take away a whole bunch of like our viewership, right? I'm not trying to tank on the defense. I think the hardest part about watching this defense right now, let me just explain it, right, is if Matt Nagy is gone, none of this may matter, right? Like we don't have any idea what scheme they're going to run next year, because if they keep Sean Desai, then all this matters, right? But if they don't keep Sean Desai and they switch, so right now, for instance, the Bears are playing a pattern match zone scheme, right? So we've talked about it before, but for the most part, especially when they've got their starters in, for instance, they might very well have this guy run a crosser, and then the cornerback will carry him, and he'll yell, crosser, crosser, crosser. He'll pop out. Roquan will take the crosser and go from there, right? And so if that happens, something like that, right, that's great. But if they then switch to what's called a spot drop defense, that's the one that looks like Madden, right? Where you call cover 2, and they do this, and they do it in, like, quite stale fashion, right? Detractors of spot drop, like me, would tell you it's basic. It's frankly easy to read, right? Where you just end up with a bunch of zones and the occasional man tag, right? I love pattern match. I think pattern match is a great scheme. And even then, like, you bet, Ace, absolutely. Like, if you wanted to switch to a more cover 1, cover 3 scheme, you could do that too, where then you've got like a high safety and a low safety, or something more akin to that. But in all of those, you're talking about different players slotting into different places in different schemes, and it could all change so fast, right? Roquan as a 4-3 middle linebacker would be a really different player than Roquan, the 3-4 inside linebacker. You know what I mean? Like, is Trevis Gibson an outside linebacker or an edge? You know, or an end, right? A 4-3 defensive end. What are they going to do? I don't know, right? Like, there's great stuff that we can get, I think, from watching guys like Thomas Graham, young guys. There's great film we can watch from Roquan bouncing around in run fits and seeing just who he is on a play-to-play basis. The more Eddie Jackson I watch, the more that I know he will be one of the most scrutinized Bears pretty much for as long as he's still in Chicago, and I'm still confident with him in a secondary. Like, him plus Jalen plus Thomas Graham plus another guy that we would replace right there plus Roquan would be great. Like, that's a really good setup that you got there. You add a little bit of juice at edge. Maybe you keep Quinn. Maybe you roll with Mac and Quinn. You could totally do that. But exactly like you guys are kind of hearing is, because I'm with you, spectator, whether he's defensive, whether he's a DC or he'll pick up another coaching job, he won't have any issue with that. And I'm with you, Jan. Like, Eddie's problem is the fact that he's paid like one of the best safeties in America, and it's hard to see that value, regardless of what you think of Eddie's talent level. Like you're saying, if you're not collecting pick after pick after pick, you just notice the missed tackles, right? But the point is that, like you guys are kind of getting at and seeing, I want to know what defensive stuff you actually want broken down, because Duke Shelley getting cooked by DK Metcalf means nothing to me, right? Like, it doesn't happen on this play. It's more to say that there's some of this that's fun and it's creative, and we can take a look at what Sean Desai likes to do. Like, for instance, here on when Seattle's trying to pick up those key yards to go try to get a potential like game-winning field goal, I thought the Bears played it really, really well. But from a schematic perspective, so much is a potential change that we'll just have to see what happens. Somebody's asking about Trevis Gibson. I think he looks solid. Like, I really do. I don't think that Trevis looks like a straight-up revelation, right? I just think he looks good. and that's good enough for me. I think another key for me on Travis in particular is that Travis looks really big. By the way, this is a nice little violent hit from 58 where he's going to see Russ. He's going to find Russ. He's going to bring Russ right down. I'm with you, Greg. I mean, Roquan really is everywhere. He's so fast laterally. It's wild to me. Like, watching the way that he moves feels special. And Graham does... That's not anything or anything particular. I don't need to sell it like it is. But so, I feel like Travis Gibson, he doesn't have that extra gear that I think Quinn does. Somebody like Quinn. But what he is good at is, in particular, holding the edge. Like, I love watching, Travis play run defense, which I think matters. Travis is basically Leonard Floyd with a little bit of extra juice in the pass rush, honest opinion. Like, or at least in the power pass rush. That's the key there. Because Leonard on turf is a different guy. By the way, this is one of those situations that I think is so funny because this is going to look like Graham misses the tackle. I think Graham does exactly what he's supposed to by forcing Lockett to turn inside, because we're talking a late clock situation. Elon, great to see ya, where Lockett is going to obviously look to get out, and so Graham is able to get him back in, and Roquan, I don't know if they called it out of bounds. Looks like they did. They called it that he got out, but Graham's miss, quote unquote, cost the Bears 4 yards, but gave them an opportunity to potentially burn. I don't know if Seattle even had any timeouts, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Goldman gets cut. In fact, I would probably expect it. But so, man, if Roquan, I will tell you what, Elon, I don't want to necessarily dunk on Roquan being Urlacher 2.0. I think they're very different. Like, I think Roquan could be a real star in certain defenses, right? But I don't know. It's tough. Because like they're saying, Urlacher was just unthinkable. Urlacher was the franchise player guy, right? Like, Urlacher was everywhere. And Roquan's everywhere too. Roquan's, I would say, Urlacher just missing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not trying to get anywhere. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm happy to give Roquan a little more time. Let's see what happens if and when he hits his prime. He's proving me a lot. I mean, like you're saying, Grant, I would tell you that exactly like that. I've seen the same thing where Roquan right now is ducking under blocks. It's been really cool. And so, oh shoot, you met Urlacher? That's really awesome. So then the Bears, they get what they want. Yay, they win. Hurrah. All right, so this is your moment for questions. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Aaron. I think the comparison can be really toxic sometimes. Like, we don't need to necessarily just compare. They're both, I don't know. We can let Roquan be Roquan. But so, let's see here. I'll show some defensive stuff. I think they did a great job in the early part. When was Goodwin's backflip? We can see it if y'all can tell me when it is. But so, let's see. Very early in the game. I'm into it, iGhost, if they let him go. Elon, when was it? Oh, man. Look at that. Burns was just awesome. Like, look at this. Look at Artie Burns. We complained as much as we did about Burns playing, and then look at this. Like, nice break on the ball, totally deflects it away. Takes on Tonga Spectre, looks good. I have a play right here for you. Tonga doesn't have to do much to live up to 7th round draft status. Like, he has to make any play at all, right? But so Tonga number 95 right here is going to soak a defensive tackle and a half, work through, stuff a run. Thumbs up, right? But so, yeah. Elon, just for you, let's see here. It should be... Let's see the backflip. Oh, they cut it off right before. Look at this, Elon. We went back for your backflip, and Goodwin goes. All right. I'm sorry. They yoinked you. They yoinked you. But so, anyways. Back to the sack we're about to show. This is beautiful coverage stuff that the Bears do. They have Roquan come over on the flat. Deion Bush does a really good job there, and all of a sudden the Bears have sunk their teeth into the pattern match because they were just all over Seattle's short action. And so the Bears end up getting a sack for sure, and I mean, it's not like they didn't earn it, right? I think it's Gibson, as a matter of fact, who cleans through like for the sack, where you'll see him work inside, nice powerful rush there, works back for it. Maybe it'll go down as nickels. I have no idea how they would score that, but Gibson's the one who made the initial play, and good on him for it. But you take a look at the coverage, I love what a lot of these guys did. They just waited for Seattle to try to test him deep. Like, whether it's Bush, whether it's Vildor, whether it's Shelley, they were all just waiting around for Seattle to stop right at the sticks. Does that sound familiar? Unfortunately. But Sebastian, if it was me, I would tell you that we should either draft cornerback, wide receiver, or guard first, and I would just take a look at what was best, right? Like, best player available of those three positions. That's me. I think if you could get a safety, maybe. I'd probably trade down, though. Like, first in the draft, I'd probably take what will be probably a top 40 pick and trade back, get a extra third, for instance, and try to draft a safety with that. So you could come away with either a wide receiver, a corner, a guard, and like one of those. And then in the third round, you get a safety, a guard, or maybe a corner, and you could start to push things up. I'm with you, Bob. Obviously, it totally depends on free agency, but for my money, I think that more picks would be better than less picks, especially on this draft. But so, let me see here. There's a couple of cool ones. Let's go guard over center. Aaron, I'm thinking that they'll solve center in free agency. That's my key. But if they don't, maybe you draft a center. I just think that drafting a center can be kind of tough sometimes. Like, it's hard to get an impact center is sort of where my head is at. And Bob, I'm with you. Like, Tonga, Goldman, yeah, exactly, Jan. That's a better way to put it. To say that Tonga's playing as well as Goldman isn't to say much right now, unfortunately. 91's not doing a ton. You can see him right here in the middle of the defense. And it's not like he's doing nothing, but he's definitely not as dominant as he used to be. And yeah, Jan, exactly. I mean, another thing that I've seen with centers is that you don't have to draft them that high. Third-round centers are actually pretty common, as far as what I understand. That's why I find myself thinking, if the Bears got, just to give you something, right? If the Bears had an impact tackle right here, Borum as, let's just call him a decent tackle, right? A free agent center and an impact guard and James Daniels. You could be looking at a weak-ish left side or right side of the line that gets it done, right? A strong, like, right or left side of the line, or yeah, weakish right side of the line, strong left side of the line, and that could do a lot of things. But yeah. So then Seattle hits a beautiful 2nd and 11 run that drives me crazy because the Bears get a stop on 2nd and 11. And of course, they get a 6-man box on 2nd and 11. They block this thing up. Just gorgeous. I think I'm drawing it wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they get everybody, right? And so at that state, like, they blow through. They've got an extra lineman through the hole. Graham tries to bring down Penny, and it's just nothing doing. Aaron, I'm not trying to blow off Cody. I'm trying to be realistic about the fact that Cody wasn't great in 2019. He had a decent stretch when we played Houston, Jacksonville, Minnesota, and the Lions. But for most of the year, he wasn't very good. And that was 2019. So then comes 2020, and he wasn't good again. And then comes 2021, and he hasn't been great this year either. I want him to be worth that contract that he signed. I'm not seeing it, personally. So maybe the Bears keep him around, for sure. Like, they might, right? But I think a cut would make more sense. Jan, thank you for pointing that out. That makes a lot of sense. I haven't looked at it, but you're right that they just restructured Whitehair. So he may be uncuttable. And in that case, it may be more about finding a right guard, given that they'll stick with Cody at left guard. And hey, maybe Cody could improve with better linemen around him. That's totally possible. But yeah, right now I'm disappointed with 65. That's all I'm really trying to say. But and Bob, I'm not trying to be anti-Borum. I'm just trying to set my floor at a realistic spot, let's say, and move up from there. Where if the technique never improves and he ends up just fine, that's a win, in my opinion. Bears are like coax out a run on what is this 2nd and 7, make a nice stop. It is fun watching the defense fly around. Yeah, $12 million in dead money and no cap relief is not positive. Quinn will just pop these plays off that are just nutty right here. Take a look at number 94. Obviously, he'll rip through, pull down. I never remember what this guy's called. DJ Dallas, I think. And then somebody decides. Now, granted, I've seen some people say that like Graham could have won this rep. Personal opinion, I don't understand why we would have Graham playing man on man against DK Metcalf. Like, it's not man on man, it's the press man part, right? Like, this to me is not a good situation. Now, if this was an assignment meant for Kindle Vildor that just got carried over to the other side, I get it, you know? But I don't see why somebody who's as good in off-man settings would be asked to play against one of the most dangerous sprinters in football in press with no safety help, right? And honestly, I don't think I'm the only one that would have this question. I can't tell if the Bears just didn't execute well, but they weren't the only one open. Like, not only Okusai is this not Graham's game, but 20 got beat down the seam too. So there's more than one Seahawks player that ends up open, and I don't know what the call is, right? Because I don't want to necessarily just pin busted coverages randomly on Eddie Jackson, but he's not in position to help either of these guys. Like, he looks as if it looks like they're trying to do a roll, right? Where they've got Jackson moving into the center field while this safety bites down, but all it really does is end up with two deep threats totally open, where I think if Russell had dotted the ball, say over here, they could have made a play. And hey, to give the Russ and DK some credit, this is an absolutely gorgeous throw. Like, we could watch it again. If it's not as good a throw, like we saw last week. I mean, Graham had a play in man-on-man coverage that where the throw wasn't near as good, he made a play. And in this one, the throw is just outstanding. Like, sometimes you just get beat. This also, in my opinion, isn't what Graham is good at. Maybe they thought that because it was a third down that they could have Graham on him and just do something short. That basically they tried to dare Seattle to do something aggressive, and they did. But yeah, exactly, Jan. I mean, that's the kind of throw that I don't want to call it undefendable, but it's incredibly hard on a defense. But so, Ryan, thoughts on John Madden? I mean, legend, right? It to me, it's not hard. I'm sorry, I should have answered this earlier. Like, John Madden died, which is so unbelievably sad. His impact is obvious. It's not just a video game, right? He's a great coach that went through, did a lot of things for football, and obviously he's one of the more, I don't know, like, energetic and enthusiastic color commentators we just about ever had. And so I think he did so much for football, especially from a broadcast and a publication standpoint, like in terms of just promoting the game. And I think that's something well worth honoring. I don't know much about him personally, so outside of that, that's really all I got. But Yeah. Mm-hmm. Greg, I think that's a good way to put it. Like, he would. Madden, Madden was one of, I think, everybody's favorite football figures. And so to see him pass obviously sucks, but I don't know. What is, or like, is Madden in the replacements? Akusai? Because if I haven't seen it, I need to. But so, let's see here. Do I have any other stuff? I mean, I kind of do. Like, we're being pretty loose at this stage. But so, I thought the defense did generally well. I loved the coverage setup that led to this. This one we talked about earlier in the game was just beautiful. Like, I love the bracket. I love Eddie Jackson here to cut off in and up breakers. Super fun. And then, let's see here. We can do a little bit more. I'll need to then. That sounds like a great way to celebrate it. But so, somebody said that they like just watching Roquan move. This is a great example of that. Just gets in the gap, moves on over, makes the hit, denies something. It's not as if it's incredible, right? It's not like he needs to be amazing, but it's good. And so, watching him bounce around like that is cool. Bob, you saying like, or can we talk about who could be gone next year? What do you mean? Like Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, like players? I mean, I think there's a lot of change coming. I mean, you got to remember, right, that like the overwhelming majority of this defense at this stage is on 1-year deals, right? Where let's take a look, right? Let me get. Nah, that's not gonna help. Shelley is a draft pick, so he's obviously still here, right? Vildor, draft pick, still here. Eddie, still here. Deion Bush, I don't even know whether this is teased to bore right now or not. But so, Artie Burns, 1-year deal. Deion Bush, 1-year deal. Tashawn Gibson, 1-year deal. Bilal Nichols, probably hitting free agency, and I don't know if he's getting like the big, or I don't know if he's getting some kind of big extension. Bruce Irvin, obviously 1-year deal. Xavier Crawford, I have no idea. Like, there is so many pieces of this defense. Like, Mario Edwards got extended, and he has been largely a non-factor. Like, I love a lot of what Mario brought to 2020, but as a defensive lineman in 2021, he's not been great. And that's all right. Alec Ogletree is on a 1-year deal. Like, it could be totally different, Bob. It wouldn't surprise me if it is. I mean, they've got $75 million in cap space. I don't know if they're going to go on a true-to-form spending spree, right? But there is so many of the defense's current starters that are just not going to be here next year. And so that's part of why when you guys hear me talk about, like, why are we focusing so much on the offense? Well, part of it is, sure, Justin Fields, and I'm not blind to that. But another part of it really is the fact that the Bears defense as it stands, like, I need to take another look at the Blackson signing. I have loved the Angelo Blackson signing. Number 90. He doesn't do anything specific on this play. That's not the point. It's more that he's just a run-stuffing defensive tackle that's not that expensive. And so between him and, say, Tonga, you do need rotational guys that can come in and stuff some run plays, because there are too many teams that just still run the ball like crazy right now, which it happens. That's a nice little pressure on his part. But Russ did some things. Like, there are a couple of these that I found throughout this game. Let me see, what's our time code? Where you just see Russ make stuff happen. And I'll credit to him for that. Also, this play gets a ton of people open, but let's get there. So one thing that I loved that Seattle did was that they would use these tight bunch sets where, no, they weren't like the standard like bunch that looks like that with a 3-man release, right? But what they did do was that when they tightened everybody up like this, it made things complicated for defensive backs whenever anybody switched what they were doing. So for instance, right here, you're going to see a quick double move that's going to get both Ogletree and Eddie Jackson covering it. I don't think both of them are supposed to be there. And that's evidenced by the fact that then when Kindle Vildor passes this guy off to what I think is supposed to be Eddie, and Eddie doesn't go there, and they leave this guy wide open, all of a sudden, 3 Bears defenders, 2 of them are on one guy's on nobody, he's open, and Russ can just pick which one they want, right? Also, on the other side of the field, they got Roquan Smith in a one-on-one, and he got danced. Like, I think a lot of it's just footing. Roquan doesn't normally miss things like this. This is a one-on-one matchup you'll see right here, right? Where as Quinn comes down, like you would expect him to, the tight end gives a shimmy and a shake, and he is, gone. Like, obviously it's not you dot him, he touchdown. Like, we're not Orlovskying here. But as far as a third down goes, he's got it just fine. The only guy who's got it easier here is 81, who's, absolutely wide open. And if Russ wasn't getting pressured, maybe he'd load up and throw down the sidelines because he is wide open and well within reach at the same time. But Russ did a lot of good things. Like, overall, it wasn't the strongest game in the world, but Russ made some throws that you need a talented quarterback to make, and it's his mobility that still, I think, separates him from a lot of people. I do think he can kind of create problems for himself sometimes. There's no pretending that that's not the case, but Russ's ability to threaten with his legs while still dishing with his arm is exactly what anybody is excited about. If you are excited about Justin Fields, I am at this, still to this point. I think that the time that he spent in his rookie year should help him a lot. I think he needs a big step next year, but the big time throw percentage is where you want to see it. The highlights are high. The low lights are just low. I think extra help or time against the Giants, teams like that, the Vikings, could be really good for him. I really do. Fields hasn't played a ton of the easy games, and the one easy game that he did play was against Detroit, and he smoked them. He had, if memory serves, 12 attempts and threw for 204 yards, which is a pretty good day at the office. Completing, I think, 4 out of 4 of his deep shots, which one of them Mooney had to help out with, but the other really solid. And Harrison, I would tell you that I think Gibson will end up being a solid interior or a solid rotational pass rusher. I don't think that's a problem either. I would actually consider that a really good outcome out of the 5th round, but that's just me. But so let's see. How come had the Seahawks offense and defenses look so different? I'm not 100% sure. I wish I could tell you, but Pesa, I'm with you too. I would like to see what Fields could do with, honestly, better receivers are great. Better scheme too. This one was funny, by the way. So Ogletree is going to do what's called roboting, right? Where he's going to see this and he's just going to turn and get back to stop the crosser. And this throw just donks off his head, right? We'll see right here, another view from it. It happens fast, so hopefully I'll be able to catch it. But you're going to see the ball ricochet off of 44's helmet right there, bunk, and just tip sideways. It's funny to me. You got to use your head. But so, man, is this the one where, yeah. So this is where I think it's Gerald Everett, again, just blocks the heck out of Kindle Vildor, which these always make me a little sad because this is what tight end blocking is quote-unquote supposed to look like, where Everett just gets out there, just completely takes Vildor out of the play. I would love to see a little bit more of that from the Bears tight ends, but we'll get there when we get there. We got a nice receiving game out of Kmet today, which was great. But yeah, the Tabor penalty happens right there, so he picks that up, and then the Seahawks use motion really, really well to pull Eddie Jackson out of position. Like, both of them commit. Frankly, I would tell you Bush probably commits too hard, given his motion. And Penny walks right on in. But so, either way, big win for the Bears. We're ending on a touchdown, which is not ideal, right? Let me move to at least something decent defensive. But so, why would Graham be a good nickel? I'm coming around to him playing corner, period. where he could just play outside corner at this stage. But I do think that the nickel position is a very heady one. Like, my thought is that right now the nickel corner, let's say it's him. I don't think it is. But he's got to basically defend all sorts of space on the field. And so the different ways that you might use somebody who's able to trigger well, where you say, okay, you're going to be a flat defender. And if somebody comes at you, you're just going to drive on them. Like, that kind of thing could fit Graham really, really well. And I'm with you, Jordan. I hear you. Him and Fuller are very, very similar. One of them coming out of the 6th round, the other out of the 1st. Pedigree does kind of matter. But I don't know. We'll see. I think Graham fits in any scheme that tries to use zone mindset. But frankly, I think he might be showing that he can even play man at that point. He might be a true steal. Very excited about him. But either way, Bears have a big game coming up. Big. Teehee. Bears have a game coming up against the Mike Glennon pseudo-led Giants, which will be interesting. But it'll be fun. Hey, Bears playing another bad team, might win. So that would land the Bears at 6-10, going into a season-ending tilt with the Vikings to go to 7-10, right? Yeah, exactly, Akusai. This is a game where the Giants want both teams to lose if they could choose. It's just a matter of who. Colin, I think that'd be hilarious. But so, yeah, at this stage, I know I would love to see Fields play. I doubt that that's a shocker. I don't know if he will. I have no idea. I hope he does, though, because I think a team like the Giants, truly, it's not that they're defensively bad, it's that they're offensively not great. And so if we do have to watch, like Grant's saying, Glennon versus Foles, that'll be 3 hours of our life we don't get back. But I will watch. If I had to guess, Bob, I don't know how you would take the ball out of Foles' hand. Like, truly. It's not that he played amazing. It's that I would just be surprised. I mean, if he just won the game off a 2-point conversion, for crying out loud. If it's not Fields, why would it be Foles? But, it's possible. So who knows? But, yeah. We'll see what happens. Either way, I hope you guys have a phenomenal rest of your night. If you've got anything extra that you can give, please give it to Parker Dickerson. I think he needs it. I just can't imagine what him and his family are going to. Thoughts and prayers, so on and so forth. But let's see. Yeah, exactly, Harrison. Nothing says loyal Bears fan like watching Mike Glennon's revenge game against Nick Foles. But so, combo on Mac and Quinn, I do think, that they're getting older. Both are good, Like, they're both good players. It's not like they would be a problematic edge pairing. They're just getting paid a lot. So if the Bears decide that they want to do a soft reset next year, like a down year before a bounce back setup, then maybe you see what the market would suggest for either of them. Though you're probably not trading Mac. Like, his contract's so expensive, that would just be ridiculous. But who knows? I mean, Quinn, to me, is the real potential move, where they didn't extend any of his money into the future. They thought they were going to probably cut him next year, and now he might set the sack record, or at least the Bears franchise sack record. And so you might be able to trade him to a contender for like a 4th or a 3rd or something like that. In what sense, Harrison? Like the fact that he gets a crazy amount of sacks off of his pressures? Like, it doesn't concern me, mostly because I'm not betting on him for the future. It's amazing to me that he seems to get one pressure a game and turn it into a sack. I mean, Quinn's conversion ratio is hilarious, if nothing else. But he's also been a solid run defender and done a lot of good things for the Bears this season. So it's not like I think he's not deserving, especially because I think he created a lot of pressures last year that he didn't get any credit for. So it's wild to see the math work out. As, like, right now, I think he would be a 9.5 sack average between the last 2 years. And that feels about right. But, yeah, exactly. I don't know if it is, Darren. It's more that I don't see Quinn pressuring like crazy or something. It's not like you see Quinn flash every third snap, but you get the idea. Either way, it's about time that we hit the hay. So I'll cut it there. You guys are awesome. Have a great rest of your evening, and I will see y'all next Wednesday. Bear down.